When you have great coaches,
we have a chance to be one hell of a big story this year, man, if we put our heart and soul into this football thing.
then after you have great coaches, you get great players.
Jacobs slips out of a tackle, and the rookie's taken off. Takes Chiefs with him all the way down to the 30.
You have a great organization.
It's easy to kind of spend money in free agency or draft players, but the hard part is developing a team.
Knock on wood if you're with me.
Quick pass on the slant, complete for a lot of yardage. Hunter Renfrow off to the races.
And you tell them one thing, just win, baby.
Today, Las Vegas officially becomes our nation's capital.
Nation, are you ready for another edition of the Franchise Raider podcast starting in just a few minutes? We've got someone new with us tonight, making his debut, Raider Rooz. Hang tight. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of the Franchise Raider podcast. I'm your host, Knight. Joining me are my two co-hosts for this evening. You guys know him, you guys love him. Mr. Inspiration himself, Chris Sproule.
What's up?
Inspire us tonight, Chris.
Yeah, Mr. fucking super giddy. Yeah, I'm ready to do this. So let's go.
I haven't found my lane to pick on you yet, man. Don't give us much material, man. You got the block. Hey, but joining us tonight, man, is making his debut. Franchise longtime caller, made his mark calling into the show. We got Raider Rooz. What's up, Rooz?
Not much. How's everybody doing?
I don't know. Hey, what kind of material you're gonna give us, man? What's gonna be your line for us to pick on you? I'm Janikowski.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I guess it just has to happen. Nicknames have to be earned.
Natural.
Yeah, exactly. Unless you're Kobe, then you can call yourself Mamba. But
yeah,
but we'll give it some time because those things usually tend to take care of themselves.
Exactly.
I put my foot in my mouth with the Janikowski thing, and I got to own that. So but you know what? Joe started with the cool Mo D, and I still say Joe's a little mini me when he does this. I hope you're watching, Joe. There you go.
Oh, he's definitely watching.
Yep.
All right, man. So, hey, exciting times, right?
No
hey,
doubt.
How's your guys' cities doing? Are we opened up?
I was actually on the road today, and I was surprised at how many cars were out. So, yeah, I think with the good weather, people are coming out. So, hopefully this thing gets behind us.
I'm definitely noticing traffic is picking up again, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the first time I went out on Cinco de Mayo. Went and got some Mexican food at this local place up here, and I was telling the wife, I'm like, "There's too many cars out right now. Something's up."
Yeah,
I almost
no doubt.
forgot about Cinco de Mayo, and then we started. There's like traffic in this way to get back to the house, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, people are done." They said phase one, and people said, man,
I mean, it's almost been 2 months, so it's a long time to be staying in. So
it's
no doubt. I think people are ready, man. They're ready. They're just. Once you have the nice weather, they can't. I went for a drive on Sunday up in the Oakland Hills. I'm like, oh, there's not going to be nobody out here. Man, it was full of people. I'm like, what a mistake.
Yeah.
I should have went somewhere else.
Yeah, the government sends you a stimulus and says, stay home. Yeah, right. Yeah, you open
I
up.
still haven't got a stimulus.
Neither have I. I'm still waiting for mine, too.
I'm going to make my own stimulus.
Write my own checks. The government can cash it. All right.
Exactly.
All right, man. So tonight I thought we'd do something different. We've been sitting there talking endlessly about this Raiders offense and the weapons that we got. And we spent a lot of time talking about Derek Carr. And for the record, I know he's going to come up tonight. It's inevitable, especially with all the rumors about Aaron Rodgers. But I really don't want to talk about that. It's not going to happen. There's pointless to bring in Aaron Rodgers with the quarterback staff we have at this point. So I thought we would pay a little bit more attention to the boys on the D and what the Raiders did primarily in free agency, because I think they really made some really huge moves there. And then they added some real nice pieces in the draft and even undrafted that I think is going to really round this thing off and give us at least a chance on paper. And that's kind of where we're at right now. So your guys' overall thoughts just on the defense as it stands right now. I mean, pretty much you could ink somebody in every spot. The only open spot would be that left cornerback slot. But what do you guys think right now overall about this defense, Chris?
Yeah, I like the additions that they made, and I think it's going to be critical for the defense this year because it does seem like we have the pieces on offense. And, for as long as I can remember, our defense has always been the weak link of our team. And, with today's NFL, it seems like, the game is geared for scoring. So maybe the idea isn't necessarily to, be this lockdown, shutdown defense. But if you can create a couple turnovers a game and win that turnover battle, I think that can be, just as key as to having a great defense.
Yeah, Rooz, what you got?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think Chris is right on it. I mean, if you look at our roster from 2018 to where it is now, I mean, it's night and day on both sides of the ball, but especially on defense. I mean, I don't even think – is there even a single starter from 2018 on the roster right now?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
Depending on if PJ Hall or Hurst are going to be starting, I think it's going to be Collins and Hankins.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one.
So, but yeah, I mean, it's been a complete roster turnover. So, the hope is that the defense gets shored up, we get consistent pass rush, and we stop seeing backs and tight ends running wide open in the middle of the field.
Yeah. And I don't think you're going to stop a team, like if you just keep it within our division, our defense isn't going to stop the Chiefs, and that could be said for a bunch of defenses around the league. That offense is just too potent. But if you can force a turnover or two a game, I think that's how you can win a matchup with a team like that. So, I think that has to be the focus this year is creating turnovers because we just haven't done that in the past.
And I think that's key. That's the key that I've heard you guys said it 3 times now already, is turnovers. We talk endlessly about how the Raiders front has not gotten enough sacks but we don't take pressures into consideration, all that, but I'm natural media or whatever, right? They talk about sacks. Our sacks did go up last year, but our turnovers is where we're lacking right now. And if you look at some of the players that they went and got, they got not only linebackers that can cover, but they have hands that can go and intercept the football. We bring in Randall at safety. He's known for having a ton of picks. I know he makes a lot of mistakes, but he's a ball hawk. He picks the ball off. He makes big plays. They're looking for people to come in here and make turnovers because that's what this defense lacks. But I agree with you guys. I think this when it comes to the Kansas City Chiefs primarily, because that's really, they set the bar. And you're not going to be able to stop them. I think that's why we did what we did in the draft as far as, and even in the offseason, really focusing on playmakers. But they did set up the defense to make turnovers, not necessarily to stop people, but hopefully get those turnovers, compete with the Chiefs points-wise, and then just hope that your defense can make enough plays to give you the edge. They would even win by 3, maybe a touchdown.
Yeah, and the Chiefs, they are the cream of the crop, and they got better this offseason, right? Mm-hmm. Adding the running back out of LSU. Yep. And then you look at the team like the Broncos, I mean, they're going to be way better. They added 2 legit receivers. They already had a tight end. They added a backup tight end. So they're going to be better on offense. So, I mean, like we've said this before, the AFC West has kind of turned into the Big 12. These teams are going to score the ball. It's who can create the turnovers to get that ball back for your offense. So I think that's critical.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Rooz.
No, I mean, you're on it. And I really think you're really going to see a big improvement from Farrell this year. I think he's going to take an exponential jump. I really do. I mean, his guys like him that have that type of character and that work ethic, they're not going to be held down for long. I mean, he's not a twitchy, explosive, edge rusher. He's not a Josh Allen. That's not his game, but he can do so many other things to make everyone else better. I liken him to Justin Smith. If you remember, he was with the Bengals, then he went to the 49ers. As soon as he went to the 49ers, that's when his career really took off. I mean, he had a good career with Cincinnati, but he really took that next jump once he had other talented players around him. And he made Aldon Smith an all-pro player. I mean, tight. The tackle and stunt was his forte.
Yeah, and I think that, for those third-year players, it's going to be critical. So you have PJ Hall, Hurst, and then a lot of people forget about Arden Key, but is he going to do anything? Those three guys, if they can, exponentially improve their game, that's going to be huge for our defense. Because really, with the exception of Hurst, none of those guys have given us much. They were all drafted fairly high. And Hurst probably he was the last guy drafted, and he's probably outperformed the other two. So I think those three guys need to step up their game.
Well, I think it's set up too. I think it's set up for those guys to all three of them, Farrell, Hurst, and even PJ Hall. I mean, if he makes a team, right, he's got to show consistency, especially workouts and his preparation. But as long as he does that in his hustle, he's not going to be asked to start. He's not going to ask to take up bulk of those snaps in the middle. So those two guys could come in fresh off the bench, especially on passing downs, especially Hurst. I think that's where he thrives the most. And then we could actually kick Farrell to the outside to tie that up and send linebackers into blitz and things like that. So Farrell played all over the place. And Chris, I know that wasn't your favorite pick or your favorite player last year, but are you warming up to the fact that Farrell could have a breakout year this year?
Oh, yeah, it's not the player I dislike. It's just the point where they took him. I don't have anything against Farrell. I think he's a solid, good player. I don't think he's ever going to be, some Pro Bowl, All-Pro type player. But it's just the only issue I had with that pick was just where they took him at 4. I would have liked to have seen that, go later. But I hope they say the biggest jump you take is in year 2. So you bring in Rod Marinelli, probably the best defensive line coach. I think, things are set up for him to have a better year than he did last year. And it wasn't like he had a bad year last year. He just didn't have a lot of sacks.
Well, yeah, rookie year, he moved around along the defensive line a lot. They wanted him to get bigger and stronger, and he did that as the season went on. So this is where you'll see that preparation for year 2 really come into play, not only for him, but guys like Max Crosby. Another guy that I'm interested in, Rooz, how do you feel about Arden Key? Is this going to be finally his year, as long as he has the right pieces around him to actually, especially in the secondary? I think the secondary is what Arden Key was missing personally. How do you think that's going to play out for him?
Well, I think the thing with Arden is he's got to be able to finish. Like his rookie year, he got in the backfield. He should have had nearly double-digit sacks.
Easy.
I think he only ended up with 1 sack, I believe. But even Gunther talked about it in one of his press conferences. He got back there a bunch of times, but he just couldn't finish. He couldn't close the deal. And then last year he had a setback, and he was kind of on a milk carton. So, I don't know, man. It's tough to say with Key. I mean, remember there's still Dion Jordan, who's still potentially in the mix. He's a free agent right now, but I know Joe has been putting out some feelers to try to get some information about that and where we stand with Jordan. But that is a hole right now on the roster, that 4th defensive end, because we got Nassib, Farrell, and Crosby right now. So it's going to be interesting to see who's going to be that 4th or potentially 5th defensive end. So
yeah, when I look at the tape and I watch Arden Key, I agree. Like if you watch how close he is to the quarterback, most plays. That's why I'm thinking hopefully if they could fix these secondary issues, they'll definitely pick up some sacks in the coverage sack department, because especially in the middle of the field, we got burned in the middle of the field so bad. And to know that we kept getting picked on there and Arden Key still being just a step behind, I'm pretty hopeful that in the right situation, I don't think he's going to be a 4-down defensive end by all means, but a guy that you could bring in on 3rd and long, and I think it'd really pin his ears back and go after it. What do you think, Chris?
And the thing with Arden Key is he's a slight guy. He's not a real big guy. He's athletic for a guy his size, and you can run. He's a perfect guy to run games with. So where you have the defensive tackle and that defensive end switch up and cross over, he's a good piece in that way. But you guys are right. I mean, he's always been around the quarterback. He's just not getting the guy down. Maybe with better secondary play, he has that half second to get the quarterback. But even like last year in the Texans game, he had Deshaun Watson and he made that miracle throw. It just seems like Arden Key gets screwed a lot when it comes to things like that. Definitely. But and then with Dion Jordan, I agree with Rooz. I don't know why they haven't showed more interest in him, because I thought he really played well. and he's another one of those guys that you can run games with because he can play inside out. Obviously he's going to come in on the cheap. That would be somebody that I would go after for sure.
Well, I think with Deion Jordan, I don't think it was a talent issue at this point, or not. I think it's been money. And I think now that we've passed the draft and we passed, all these things, I think that Jordan's going to have to accept the fact that he's not getting big paychecks.
Right. Anybody that's a free agent right now, you're not getting paid. I mean, the majority of these teams have spent the money that they want to spend.
Right.
You're better off just taking the 1-year deal, showing out, and then you can get paid or, franchise or whatever it may be. But especially with, the condensed off season and not being able to meet with teams, you're better off just taking that 1-year deal and then trying again next year.
Well, a perfect example of that, Chris, is Shaq Barrett down in Tampa Bay.
Mm-hmm.
He came on a 1-year deal and he showed up and showed out. And
yep.
if I'm not mistaken, he led the actual league in sacks.
He did
or something.
Yeah.
I mean, he blew up. And even then, even with all that great production, he still didn't get that long-term contract.
Yeah, he got franchised.
Yeah, they franchised him, so they want to see if he can do it again before they give him that big deal. So,
which I don't blame. If I'm a team, I want to protect myself too. I don't want that one-hit wonder. Blowing it up. So that makes sense from the Buccaneers standpoint too.
I think that's what happened with Will Compton too. There's another name you could throw in there. I mean, he played really well, but he played really well on a very bad defense. So I think the Raiders are not really jumping at the bit there. But you would think that he would be a nice piece to bring in for backup, to these guys. So, but
I think the room's kind of full now at this point.
Got pushed out at this point. Yeah.
Well, I think what limits Compton too is he's basically a 2-down player, and he's like 31 years old.
Yeah.
Clearly his best playing days are behind him. Although he does have a hell of a podcast.
He just needs to run off on that podcast. Just focus exclusively there.
Yeah,
exactly.
Fun. So we mentioned the linebackers a little bit. Let's we talked a little defensive front. Let's jump into these linebackers real quick. So we got Kwiatkowski, now that I could say his name.
Yep.
And we got Littleton, and we got the young guys, Muse and White. How do you think that fares for us moving forward?
I think the question is going to be: is Kwiatkowski, is he a 3-down linebacker? I think we know Littleton is. Is Kwiatkowski on 3rd down? 3rd and long. Is he going to be on the field?
He's wearing the green dot.
Exactly. So that I think they totally envision him being that 3-down linebacker. It's just and I think if you watch the Chicago Bears when he got put into the lineup, he got progressively better. On passing downs for the Bears defense as the year progressed, and he got more experience. So I think there's a little bit of an unknown there, so that'll be interesting. But I think he has the capabilities to do it. I think he's athletic enough. And then Littleton's, one of the best 3-down linebackers in the league. So having those two guys, is going to make our defense a ton better because we haven't had anything like that for years. So I'm looking forward to that. And then there's, a couple young guys, Muse and Javen White. We'll see what they can do as well.
Well, also, and don't forget, we still have Markel Lee.
Yep, Markel Lee and
the other Nick Morrow.
Nick Morrow
as well.
Yep.
I mean, Morrow was given a 2nd-round tender, which I was like a little bit surprised by.
I was too. I think they think highly of him on special teams. So
that's just a lot of money to tie up.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
I don't think anybody would have signed him in the open market for a 2nd round. I mean, they could have maybe given him a 4th-round tender.
Right.
Still have the opportunity to match, but I mean, they have their reasoning behind it. So,
and I think when they gave him that tender, that was before they had signed the other 2 linebackers too, right? Yeah. So that might have, been, their backup plan.
Yeah, because he was like the only. Him and Lee were the only linebackers on the roster once they cut
Whitehead. Yeah.
So, and Burfict might be a potential. They might bring him back in. You never know.
Yeah, I think linebackers they're coming off the field now more than ever. I think really you're only having 2 linebackers on the field at all times. So maybe you don't carry as many linebackers as where now maybe your 5th or 6th linebacker is that tweener type, that Javen White type that that Tanner Muse that can play all over the field, because, you're not really getting those 3 linebacker sets too often unless it's a short yardage and goal type situation.
So here's a trivia question. Who was the first modern day player that played that type of, they call some people call it a money backer position. Do you know who it was? It was just a few years ago, within about 5 years.
Are you talking about maybe the Cardinal safety?
Yep,
yeah,
you got it.
Yeah. I don't really remember his name anymore.
Dion Buchanan?
Yeah, Dion Buchanan.
Yeah. He was the first guy.
Palomalu, that kind of guy that played a lot around the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, but I think when they exclusively started naming that that tweener position is where they obviously other people have done it, in theory before, but when they really started putting a name to it, it was with Dion Buchanan with the Cardinals.
Yeah, and I like what they did with free agency. And my only concern about Kwiatkowski, and I hate using that word concern because we don't even know yet, but when you look at what he did with Chicago last year, I mean, he played. That's a good defense, man.
Yeah,
it's a lot easier to step into a role when you got players like that around you versus coming to the Raiders where they're like, hey, we're putting the green dot on you, dude, and this is the expectations, but you don't got the same pieces around you yet. We believe we got some good pieces, but you got to be the guy that leads these guys. It's going to be a great test to why they brought him here, and he has a chance to make a name for himself, which is exciting too, because that's when you usually get the most out of a player. But that would be my only red flag, I guess, with Kwiatkowski is, can he do it on a team that needs him to be the actual focus, especially when it comes to being in the middle of that defense. Littleton speaks for himself. He earned his right to be there. He's a great cover guy. The middle of our defense got so much better just by picking up those 2 guys. And the unsung heroes here are going to be guys like White and guys like Muse and even guys like Morrow that can really play special teams. Special teams have been overlooked in this. I know I personally don't spend enough time talking about it, but they really put a strong emphasis on our special teams this year and having speed and the ability to get downfield and tackle. And it's really coming from that linebacker position, especially the young guys.
Yeah, and I think with the pieces they've added, they've definitely improved their special teams considerably, because there's a lot of those borderline depth players that we signed that are, not necessarily starters, but, could come in on a pinch. But those guys are going to play full time on special teams, which is going to make your special teams that much better. So, yeah, I expect big things. And, Rich Bisaccia is one of the best coordinators in the league. I agree with you. I think our special teams definitely improved, and definitely the linebacker room.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, even on the offense. I mean, even with some of the guys we've drafted, like Bowden. He can be one of his benefits, and it was in my article that I wrote for Franchise. Came out, I believe it came out on Monday. Was one of the benefits of Bowden is he can play multiple positions.
Right.
So that's going to give the coaches more flexibility on game day because you're only allowed to dress. I think this year they upped the roster size by 2.
Yeah. But I think one of those guys has to be like an offensive lineman. It's kind of a weird.
Yeah.
It's a weird. Yeah.
Yeah. But the point is, you get guys like that, even Muse, he could play linebacker, he could play safety, guys that can play multiple positions. Which, if we're playing against a team with a high-power offense or more of a type of grinded-out running attack, you can get that extra linebacker or that extra defensive lineman or that extra DB to be active on game day. So, when they spread you out wide, you don't have, that situation against. I can't remember the guys. Jerome Boyd on your boy Megatron down the field.
That was terrible.
And Javen White's that same dude that can play safety, he could play corner, he could play linebacker. Joe's been talking him up all offseason, and we got a chance to talk to him. Guys, go to franchisesports.com and check out Rooz's article. It was a great read. So there's a lot that's been going on with these young guys, these hybrids that we keep talking about. And it reminds me of when Bill Belichick really started building the Patriots. There was a lot of times where he would draft the guy at safety, play him at corner, a guy that came in at corner, moved him to safety. He moved pieces around, and he was really known early on for bringing in guys that could play multiple spots. So he's been doing it for years. I think the Raiders are finally seeing that, and they're really putting the kind of pieces where these guys, like we said, they're hybrids. They could cover and they could hit. So I'm excited, especially for this linebacking core, but just for the defense and special teams and how it all kind of talks to each other. I think we haven't seen something like this on paper. I know I don't want people to start getting crazy. On paper, I know, it looks really good to have the versatility that we have on the defense that we haven't seen in maybe 15, 20 years.
Yeah, and there's just more speed. There's more speed and athleticism than we've had before. Tahir Whitehead, great dude, but just super unathletic when it comes to, being able to flip his hips and cover. So I think adding the speed that we have, if we mess up, at least we'll be, making that play at a high speed as opposed to, letting the Chiefs run circles around us. I think there's going to be a few growing pains, especially because these guys haven't played a lot together. But I think the potential is definitely there.
How do you feel about all that, Rooz?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think one thing that we should keep in mind, though, even though the Chiefs are, they are the bar, and we're trying to compete with them, I think this team has been put together in the mold of what Gruden wants. He wants his guys. Like, if you notice, like I said, the roster turnover has just been immense. It's been crazy. Like, the level of talent that's on the team now is night and day from where it was just 2 years ago. So I think we got younger, we got faster, and also we got a lot of swagger. I mean, we got guys that aren't afraid to come up and hit you. They're not afraid to get in your face and let you know that they're going to be there all day. So this is not a pushover team. We don't have a bunch of mercenaries on this roster anymore. And that's important. This is homegrown talent. So
and that's difference. A way too, because when you look at the cornerback position, that's one of the areas we've probably been struggling the longest in is our cornerbacks. People tend to forget that, we got beat up in the middle of the field a lot and we needed linebackers, but we've been lacking corners since Nnamdi Asomugha, right? And that's been a long time. So, I mean, I know we had some guys come in and flash here and there, but Nnamdi's the last one I remember that actually dominated for us at the corner spot. Well, I mean, we had Charles Woodson in the secondary back and forth, but so what are your guys' thoughts on just the cornerback situation we got? And you just mentioned swag, Rooz. We got a couple of guys that one is talking, and the other one has been rumored to be one tough dude that doesn't take no bullshit, is going to get in your face and say, you want it, come get it. So we got some swag in the cornerback room right now.
Yeah, no doubt. And the only thing that worries me with the corner room is that it's just very unproven. It's very young, very unproven. So I really liked what I saw to Trayvon Mullen last year. I thought he played really well. Probably didn't get enough credit actually for playing as well as he did. But now it's that other side. Obviously in the slot last year we were awful. LaMarcus Joyner was awful. So you bring in Amik Robertson to bring in that competition. And then Arnett, can he play outside? I think that's my question. The only thing that worries me about him is his arm length. Can he jam these NFL receivers? I think that's going to be critical, especially for the way that he likes to play. He likes to play a physical brand of football. And so, I don't have questions about his speed because after all these videos now have come out, it does seem like he got a bad clock on the, at the combine. So he probably is a 4.4 guy. But yeah, I think it's just a lot of unproven players where, the sky's the limit, but, they just don't have a ton of experience at this point.
Yeah.
The guys behind. Go ahead, Rooz.
Yeah, I understand what Chris is saying, but one thing you got to keep in mind though is, everyone's unproven. Even if we would have signed Byron Jones, for example, all that money, $80-something million with about, I don't remember, 50, 60 million guaranteed, fully guaranteed, whatever. There's no guarantee that once you have him in your building, he's going to perform.
Right.
So you gotta just develop guys. You gotta, once you have continuity, once you got the same system, you got the same coaches, I think once you get them in your building, it's up to you to groom these guys.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point because I think, we have a room full of young, capable players. It's about that coaching and developing. I think you're right on with that because if you can develop these guys, then you don't have to go out and spend, $70 million guaranteed on a corner, because you have these young, good talent. I think that's a perfect point. It's going to be all about developing these guys.
And they're going to have the opportunity to do it. And then, like I said, there's guys that we haven't seen enough yet. Keyshawn Nixon, we talked a lot about him. We got Joseph back there too. We haven't seen him yet. We haven't
Isaiah
seen
Johnson.
Isaiah Johnson's the guy I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Isaiah Johnson is the guy that I'm curious to see a healthy guy. And he's at X wide receiver too, so he's got length and speed. Hands.
He's huge. Yeah, he is like built like a receiver. Super long, super tall, can run. The thing with him is going to be, can he flip his hips and be able to, change direction? That's his question. But, we didn't. It was unfortunate. I don't know why we started guys like Nevin Lawson at the end of the year last year when, I would have preferred, throwing an Isaiah Johnson in there and see what he can do, especially because at that point we weren't. I mean, yes, we were mathematically in the playoffs, but we weren't, going to make it.
Well, this will be harder. Yeah.
Well, actually, to get to your point, Chris, about why we didn't play, I was asking the same thing. And from what I heard, Gruden and company, I guess they felt that they still had an outside shot at the playoffs the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So, they just wanted to go with somebody who was a little bit more experienced.
Yeah.
But, it's going to be interesting. But one thing is for sure is there's going to be a lot of competition in that corner room. Like,
no doubt.
And these guys are not – there's no Garyon Conleys on this team, man. These dudes are going to want to come up and lay the lumber. They got no problem getting up in your face and getting physical with you. And that's exactly the type of guys that Gruden wants.
And competition brings out the best in you. And so the fact that we even have that, especially at that position, and like you said, guys that could hit, and if a guy like Jones can come in and actually start making plays and learn to turn his hips, like Chris said, and become that guy on that side, you got two of these guys now that we drafted that could slide inside and make some things happen too. So again, more versatility.
Right. And it's not that they can just hit, they're sound tacklers. Right. So, even if you do give up you're going to give up, passes. Even if you give it up, get the guy down right away. You know what I mean? That's critical. Those extra yards make a huge difference. So I think the guys they brought in are, sound tacklers with the, exception of Demarius Randall. And I think that's huge. I like, if we're going to, lose, at least let's lose with some attitude. I was kind of sick of, Garyon Conley. Dude did not seem like he wanted to play. He was like the Amari Cooper of the corners for us. Like, it just didn't seem like he wanted to play.
He was worse, man. He just looked disinterested from the jump, man.
Right.
That's not a Gruden player. That was Reggie McKenzie.
That was
it was not a shock. I'm actually glad we ended up getting at least a third round pick.
I couldn't believe that.
So
that's where they pulled the trigger.
I mean, heading into the draft, you guys remember all I kept saying, we need some goons on defense.
Yeah.
We got some goons.
They definitely did. Yeah, they definitely did.
Yeah, we got some guys that they're gonna get up in your face, man. I'm excited, man. Because I feel like, for the first time, like when you turn the TV on Sundays, we're actually gonna have a legitimate chance at stopping somebody and winning.
Yeah, and I mean, just look at it. You have, essentially, you could have our secondary. You have Jonathan Abram, Amik Robertson, and Damon Arnett. All three guys play the same exact way. They're like you said, they're absolutely goons, and so that's exciting, as a fan. Those three guys, it's essentially like bringing them all in at one time since we didn't really get to see Jonathan Abram last year.
Yep,
that's the guy, and you're segueing it in perfectly. That's the guy I can't wait to see.
Yeah,
we saw the toughness in him, and I know we only got to see it in one game, but we saw the toughness that he's going to bring.
Yeah, and I think if you pulled Mayock and Gruden, if they could choose one player on the team, they're taking Jonathan Abram. By the way those two guys talk about him, they absolutely love the dude.
Yeah.
So I like you said, I'm excited to see what he can bring. It was too bad that he went down in the first week last year.
And he's infectious.
Yeah, totally.
And a lot of these guys already have that same type of swag. There's a few quiet ones.
Right.
There's a great balance of these guys that are going to be, and if they're all the young guys.
Right. And they're going to feed off of one another. If one makes a play, you tell me if Jonathan Abram hits a dude, Amik Robinson's not going to want to come back and, lay somebody out. They're going to feed off of that.
That's bumping, drive in, and going to build that continuity that this team has lacked for a long time too, right? So They're going to have each other's back. They're going to think and play as hard as the other guy next to them. So there's not going to be a question of this guy's not tough. They're all tough guys, proven tough guys, hard workers. out to prove themselves. I mean, granted, guys, I mean, we're talking like we're going to the Super Bowl, but so don't play this all. You know, if you play,
we're not,
you're gonna be like, wow,
No,
these
but-
guys think these guys that we're gonna have a #1 defense.
But
No.
how do you think? Look at the 49ers. Look at how quickly they turned that thing around. I mean,
True.
49ers, they were dog shit. I mean, let's be honest. In 2018, they were terrible.
Bad.
Yeah, they were just as bad as us. They actually smoked us.
They had
Yeah.
defense. They had some defense, but yeah, right.
Yeah, but you know, they were really bad. And then all of a sudden they drafted well, had 2 really good, strong drafts. They made some nice additions in free agency, and they turned their team around. Which gets to my next point is if you go back to Gruden, his first go around, he had 2 8-8 seasons back to back. It wasn't until year 3 until he turned that roster over. You know, he got rid of Jeff George. He got rid of all those guys that didn't want to be here. You know, he minimized James Jett's role. You know, they got Gannon in 99. And then in 2000, he added Wheatley. I think Wheatley was there the year before, but
Charlie Gardner, I think.
Yeah, he added Gardner. That's right. I know, actually, Gardner came in 2001. But,
yeah.
But in 2000, that team took off. I mean, we went 12-4. We led the league in rushing, and we led the league in knocking quarterbacks out. If you remember that year, Reagan Upshaw, like, he knocked out almost a dozen quarterbacks by himself.
That's right.
Yeah, it was crazy. So, you know, rebuilds take 2 to 3 years. This is year 3. So we're just going to have to be patient. But I really do that this is going to turn around in our favor.
So outside of Abram, I mean, what do you guys? I know we talk Randall a little bit. Like, I know that he doesn't tackle well, but he is a ball hawk, and I don't think he's. You know, hopefully with the additions we made, he won't have to do a lot of it. But a tackling I'm talking about. But outside of those 2 guys that we already know, what about the rest of the safety room? How do you guys think they fit in? Not only in the safety room in general, but special teams. What do we think they offer to the defense as a whole at this point?
Well, they brought in Jeff Heath, and he's got a ton of experience. You know, he's played a lot for the Cowboys, and at the very least, he's going to be a core special teams player. He's a lot like Eric Harris. I kind of equate those two. Eric Harris may be a better coverage safety. Heath maybe better down in the box.
Yeah.
So I think you could bring both of those guys in and feel comfortable. I don't necessarily want either of them starting. But like if they had to spot start, you know, you'd feel good about it.
Rotational pieces.
Right. I would have liked to have seen them maybe, you know, get another young, free ball hawking safety. But, you know, you can't overhaul everything in one off season. So it does take time. So it'll be interesting to see those guys play.
What about you, Rooz?
Yeah, I mean, bless his heart. Eric Harris is a nice player, but if Eric Harris has to play extended snaps,
yeah, you don't want it.
You're in trouble. I mean, I'm just being honest, and I have nothing against him. You know,
yeah,
safety.
Good story. You know,
Yeah,
but like
good story,
they're spot starters. You know, like if a guy goes down, you feel good about them playing 1 or 2 games, but you don't want them starting 16 games.
Yeah,
he's at the bottom of the roster guy. I mean,
right.
And I wouldn't be surprised if he's not on the team. I know Gruden loves him.
Yeah,
so Gruden has these guys that he really likes. You know, he liked Worley a lot for whatever reason, but
yeah,
you know, we'll see. I mean, you know, maybe Eric Harris he takes a jump as well. I mean, he got a lot of experience last year, and the talent around him is better, so maybe it's going to elevate his play. So. And
I think it's telling too. You know, when you see the Raiders get rid of somebody or they become a free agent,
they're no good.
Very few have signed with other teams, which tells you a lot. You know, the talent just has not been there. I mean, if they can't even get you know backup roles on other teams, and they've been starting for us, that's kind of scary thought. So I think we've had 3 guys that have signed with other teams: Worley, Whitehead, and Joseph. So
all on 1-year deals,
right? It can't. I don't think it could get worse for our defense. Let's just put it that way. So,
don't forget your boy Shalik Calhoun.
Oh yeah.
Oh geez.
Yeah, he's special teammates for the Patriots.
A lot of those guys, like we talked about, competition in the room, but there's been an interesting theme, especially once we got to the linebackers. There's been an interesting theme about our special teams. We just named off about 5 dudes since we got to the linebackers that are going to be difference makers, really good guys that could tackle, guys who are not afraid to hit, be tough. That's going to boost the special teams, not just what they're going to bring in rotation pieces and stuff, but as they develop. I mean, especially the young linebackers. But this is what I talk about, this versatility and this. I haven't been able to talk like that in a very long time. Not with confidence anyway,
Yeah.
And they brought in international kicker. They've
you got a German now.
It's my cousin. It's my cousin from Germany.
Polish.
Yeah. So, but they got, Bowden, he could do punts. Ruggs can do kickoffs. Rashard can do kickoffs.
I don't want Ruggs returning kickoffs.
I'm with you, Rooz. I don't want him anywhere near it. I think if he could, be a spot punt returner, like if you need a big play all of a sudden at the end of a game. But I don't want him returning kicks or anything.
I mean, he's a guy you put back there if you need a quick play. But you got Nelson Aguilar, you're going to throw back there and run some stuff too. So there's just, but my point mainly is not to say, hey, let's start Ruggs at kick returns. I'm just saying the versatility that I'm starting to see on this football team. You could go to all these key pickups in a guy like Bowden, right? Running back, wide receiver, quarterback. Ruggs is playing wide receiver. He could probably I know no one likes to hear it, but he could do some kick returning and be explosive there. You got these young linebackers that are going to be special team and they're hybrid linebackers. You got Heath that can come in, really talented, a guy that makes plays at the line of scrimmage, makes people fumble, but he's a great special teams guy. These pieces that we added are just kind of all over the board and not just in one area. You're not just saying, hey, we got ourselves a good linebacker or we got ourselves a good wide receiver. We got these guys that are going to do multiple things or could do multiple things. And that just gives us real depth on this football team and speed.
Yeah. And the more you could do, the more value you bring to the team,
Right.
And if you're a back end of the roster type of guy, you've got to be able to do multiple things in order to make the roster. And so, I think a lot of the guys that we brought in can do multiple things. But I will say the thing I think the roster is lacking is, we don't have a ton of star power just yet. I think there's a potential there, but it's just a lot of solid players. We don't really have that, huge game breaker with the exception of Josh Jacobs, who I think, in just the 1 year showed he's one of the top running backs. And then Darren Waller looks like he could be one of the best tight ends in the league. But other than that, it just seems a bunch of solid guys right now with maybe the ceiling that they could become something. But I think that's kind of where the roster's lacking right now.
A lot of potential on defense, but who is that guy?
Right.
Well, I'll take you back to 2000 again, Chris. And you look at that Raider 2000 team. I mean, who do we have? We had Andre Rison that we had signed. We had Ted Brown. And we had Grant, right? And they had Napoleon Kaufman, who that was his last year, and they got Tyrone Wheatley the year before off the scrap heap.
Yeah.
So they didn't have a lot of elite talent. They had Woodson back there.
Right.
Eric Allen.
Eric Allen was nice.
Yeah, but the rest of the guys, I mean, the defensive guys, Tony Bryant was one defensive end, Reagan Upshaw was the other.
Greg Beaker.
Beaker. And then William Thomas, they signed the linebacker that year. But there weren't a lot of – there's Darrell Russell, but he was in and out of whatever drug program, rehab, whatever he was in at the time. But we had some blue-chip talent, but the majority of it was just lunch pail guys, man.
Yeah.
Hard-working guys. Those are the Gruden grinders, man, like the guys that he wanted, the guys that fit his scheme. I mean, make no mistake about it. Gruden knows how to scheme. He hasn't had the talent. I mean, I don't want to talk about offense too much because it's a show.
Yeah, right.
But he's got his guys now.
Yeah. But so back to my question: who is that guy on defense right now? I mean, let's pick one. And I know it's not the easiest thing to do, but who's going to be that guy? I know who they want it to be at this point. Maybe not, in the next few years, but I know who they kind of want it to be this year. But who's really going to be that guy that stands out as like he's in the locker room grabbing face masks and saying, "Let's go."
That's Abram for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think production-wise, I think you look for Corey Littleton.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he can do a lot of things. So I think when how we led off talking about turnovers, he can create turnovers. And he's a special teams, like just an ace, great special teams player. So he's somebody that I think could bring a lot to our defense and really put up some big numbers. But he's not a big rah-rah guy. He's not he's not in your face rah-rah type guy, So he doesn't fit that mold. But he is a player. You know, when you put him on the field, he produces.
And audience, I'm sorry, I wanted to share with you guys really quick. Unfortunately, we do not have the phone system tonight. The server that I use crashed 2 days ago, and it's out till Friday. So I do want to apologize, especially to guys like Rich and Miguel and all the guys that, you know, Rooz. Rooz is here. Never mind.
Hey, I just wanted to hear Rich's introduction song.
Yeah,
I know he's out there listening. So
that crashed too. I got to reboot that too.
Oh,
So
man.
a lot of technical difficulties. Well, I'm going to school for all this. So I do a lot of playing around, and this week it's been a nightmare. There's been a lot of stuff crashing on me, but it's
let's be real. The last 2.5 months have been a nightmare for the whole country.
Right?
Sorry.
We're doing just fine.
So we're doing our best to entertain you with our voices. Chris, do you have access to the chat? Do you want to see maybe what the chat is possibly saying about our critique?
Anthony King is saying that he doesn't understand why we are not going to have Henry Ruggs on special teams because he's fast. And I you know, he's very fast. I just don't want him injured.
Go right to Tim Brown. Look up Tim Brown.
Yeah. Well, he was a gunner for Alabama, Henry Ruggs, because of his speed. I just, you know, when a guy gets picked that high and he's that valuable to your team, I don't really want to see him getting injured returning a kick. I mean, those guys get killed, especially a guy his size.
Yeah.
To take that a step further, I don't even want to see Ruggs on a basketball court. Like, enough of this basketball shit. You're in the NFL now. Like, we don't need any blown Achilles. We don't need no blown ankles. Like,
thank you.
You know, stay off the ATVs. Like Clyde Walford, no ATVs.
Clyde Walford, yeah. Someone else was doing it too. It wasn't just Clyde, yeah, but he was the last one that I remember.
Yeah, we don't need.
I saw Derek Carr the other day was on one. He's got this sick. It's not an ATV, but it's like this. It's almost like a go-kart type thing.
Odyssey, they call them like Odysseys or something.
Yeah, it's pretty sick. But yeah, he had like the whole team on there. I was like, I don't know how I feel about this.
Yeah, but it's one of those, like, ever since Tim Brown, I've always been against it. Like I said, I don't mind if it's in the fourth quarter, we're down 2 touchdowns, we're getting an opportunity to get the ball, and you could put the ball in the playmaker's hands.
Right.
You got one of those guys to do it, but to do it on a full-time basis, I don't. The risk is not worth the reward. But I think there's plenty of guys like we talked about, Nelson Aguilar. We haven't talked a lot about Zay Jones. I think one of those guys may not make it, but I mean, there's plenty of speed on this football team. If it's about speed and being able to be elusive, there's guys that we can put back there to do that. I don't think we have to force Ruggs in that situation.
Yeah,
but,
and that's how I feel. Is there's capable other players, you know, so let them do it. You know,
just put Bowden back there, man.
Right,
We drafted him for that. Just throw him back there.
He wants to. That guy. That's a, you know, I like that because he has that swag too, right? Oh man, didn't he say? The Chiefs haven't seen nothing like me yet. They don't got nothing like me or something like that. He made a statement too.
Break Matthew's ankles.
Yes, that's what it was.
What did he say?
He wants to break Tyrann Mathieu's ankles.
Oh, okay. Well,
these guys are talking, and sometimes that could be a bad thing. I'm not going to sit there and act like it's all good to say stuff like that. But these
I'd rather it be like that though. Like going back to Gary on, you know, like I'd rather if we're gonna lose, like I'd rather lose talking shit than run over.
Can we get an official Gary on Conley punching bag? Just put a jersey over him.
Oh man, but that's the problem too. If you and you know when we were around the draft time, you look at all these guys that have gotten a second contract out of the Raiders. It's been very few of our draft picks. And that that's kind of been a reason why we haven't been able to sustain success in the last 18 years.
It starts and ends with the draft, man.
Yeah, we have not been, especially in that first round.
Second round is even worse. If you look at the Raiders' second round, it's like a graveyard of just horrible draft picks.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing that I'm looking for this year in general. Not only the last year guys, how they matured and developed their games in year 2, but how this rookie class is going to fit in to what they've already been building, and are they going to be impactful? Because I've been saying all offseason long. I mean, we get all excited about all these first round draft picks we got. We've gotten 5 first round draft picks in the last 2 years. We had a couple of 2s last year. We got 3 3s this year. If these guys continue to draft well and they play well, we got to remember second contracts or not, we can't keep all these guys. If they really like, look at Max Crosby, 4th round. That guy's, we're already not paying him enough to go out there on the field if he continues to do what he was doing last year.
Right.
So that's up to us eventually.
Yeah, and that's why for me it was so critical of a hire to hire Mike Mayock, because Gruden, through the years has proven that he's not a great talent evaluator in the draft. If you look at the draft that he had before Mike Mayock came in, Colton Miller played really well last year, but we did, pass over Derwin James.
Yeah.
So with the exception of Colton Miller, that draft class really hasn't done a ton for us. So, and then you see Mike Mayock come in and he crushed it his first year, and I thought he did a really good job. We'll have to wait and see this year, but I like the players that he brought in. Everybody fit an identity.
Always.
It seemed like they had a plan going into it. Where in the past it just kind of seems like there's no real plan.
And that's why I want to talk about real quick talk about Damon Arnett. And because, Mayock's still talking about him, Gruden's still talking about him. He's getting a lot of pub because of where we drafted him. And what are you guys thinking? Like for me personally, I'll just put my opinion out there first. You guys could talk about it after. But again, I've said this before, Mayock and Gruden, whoever, whether it's both of them or what have you, they're sitting at the table, and I think Mayock has a lot to do with it actually, but they're sitting at the table and they're saying, okay, we need to get this, that, and this, but they're not just sitting there going, well, like we and Rooz were talking about before the show, the experts, right? The experts on ESPN, the experts on NFL Network, whatever. And not saying that they're not good at what they do, they are, but I'm just saying like, it's different per team. It's different per system. It's different per coach. And these guys sat back the last 2 years and said, I don't care where we're at. Let's try to gather picks. If we like it, let's like no risk. These are the guys we want. And they're going out. And Damon Arnett is that dude that they said, no matter what, there's something hidden there. He got a bad rap. We can get the most out of him. What is your guys' thoughts on just their philosophy of picking these guys no matter where they're at because they targeted them early on?
Yeah, I mean, I think it says that you have a belief in a guy, but you want to be careful too. It just seems, on the outside looking in, the last couple of years, they haven't gotten great value with Cleveland Ferrell and Damon Arnett where they took him. And again, it's way too early to say that probably because these guys could be all pros and, they'll look like geniuses. I think with Damon Arnett, if you're like us and you're on the outside, you're looking at, what he ran at the combine, which was like a 4.56. But, they had him hand timed at like 4.4. If you go back and look at the video, they started his time like 12 seconds too early, so he really was a 4.4 guy. But he's also 24, so he's older coming into the league. He's got short arms. So that's kind of like what the outside guy is basing their evaluation on, where these guys have been able to talk to their coaches, talk to, people around the campus. Our assistant defensive back coach was at Ohio State and worked with Damon Arnett. You're not going to get better intel than a guy like that, was on the staff while Damon Arnett was there. So I think, the potential is there. I think you don't start 3 years at Ohio State and suck. Like, you have to be a good player. So I have high hopes for him. I just thought 19 was a little rich, but again, I'm an outsider looking in. I'm not some insider that knows what's going on and knows the kid or anything like that. So, and again, I could look like an idiot 3 years down the road when he's an all-pro. So,
and I know that Rooz was saying a lot of touching on some of that stuff that you were talking about, Rooz. Go ahead and share your thoughts too about how these guys really get to know these players. It's more than just looking at their college tape or their combine numbers. Sometimes it goes way deeper than that.
Totally.
100%. I mean, I don't know if the audience listening hasn't read my article on franchise yet, but I would highly advise everyone to go on there. And I go on pretty long, extensive detail about the moves and the philosophy behind the moves. But the moves are multifaceted. So the thing with Arnett, it kind of came out of left field a little bit, but that was based on mocks that had been done by the so-called draft experts. Well, who the hell are they? They get paid to write hundreds of mock drafts, and it's just all hearsay. and who knows, some of it could be bought and sold from other agents where players' agents are like feeding information to them or like, hey, take care of this guy or pump this guy up or whatever. There's a lot of stuff that goes on behind in the background. But what I do know for sure is that when it comes to the combine, these scouts and these personnel men, they know everything. They know what your dog's name is. They know if you're how old were you, if your parents got divorced. They know, if your girlfriend left you at what year in high school, left you heartbroken. They know everything. So, it's rare that, you catch these guys off guard. So I know a lot of everyone says, oh, we should have traded down. Well, maybe a trade didn't materialize, or maybe the trade did materialize, but it was too far down and the compensation wasn't good enough. So, for those people that are saying, oh, Christian Fulton, the Raiders should have took him. Well, all these other teams passed him up too. He didn't go to the bottom of the second round. If he was that good, then why are all these teams passing on him? So Arnett was clearly their guy. That's the guy that they wanted, and that's the guy that they got. So as fans, I know, it might not be who we wanted, but you just have to let it play out. Like they have a plan, and they do have continuity, and Gruden is the $100 million man. So, we got to just put our trust in him and see where it goes.
Yeah, and me just reading completely between the lines, like I think that Arnett pick, I think that was a Mike Mayock pick. I know like us fans like to do, oh, that's a Gruden pick or that's a Mayock pick. Just his reaction though, and the way that he talks about him, it just feels like Mayock was all in on Arnett, which honestly makes me feel good about it because he's proven to be a good evaluator of talent.
I just picture Joe right now doing his John Gruden invitation up here, trying to be like, hey, I'm not even going to try to do it. Okay. I'm going to the heartache of me trying to do John Gruden, but I could see him being like, hey, Mike, I'm not going to do it. You could go ahead and have the 19th pick. We're going to go defense with that pick, brother. But I want you to go.
Right. Because, I mean, look at
12's mine. I'm getting this Ruggs kid, and you pick your guy for Gunther.
Yeah, because Ruggs that has Gruden written all over it. It's that high ceiling, low floor kind of guy, where Damon Arnett's kind of like just been that solid player. He just kind of fits that Mayock mold more. So I think it probably. And again, this is just me bullshitting, but it's probably Gruden got the 12th pick and Mayock got the 19th, and
they were too far away to argue each other. Social distancing really made it that way this year.
Hey, speaking about corners, one of the guys in the chat, Brian, at the beginning had asked us about what do we think about Dre Kirkpatrick, who had played under Gunther, or also I think Logan Ryan. We don't have the money for Logan Ryan. He's asking for
$10 million a year, no.
Yeah, and he's not going to get that either. As far as Kirkpatrick, I don't know, man. That guy's he's got to prove that he can stay healthy. And
not only that, for me, he's kind of, we've seen who he is, and I don't think they're trying to go there. They're not trying to buy their way into that. Like at this point, especially at this point, there's some veteran leadership that could be used in that cornerback room. We talked about who's that guy that's really going to lead these guys. That would be a guy that would at least understand what Gunther expects and maybe can help them along. But I just think from a talent level, just from an all-around speed and everything that he brought to the table, I think he's hit his ceiling where these guys have more. They want to create the opportunity for these guys to be the athletics cornerbacks that they are.
Well, what about this name I've heard this name the last couple of days, Aqib Talib. He's still available.
I keep hearing that out of John. Remember,
you're telling me Damon Arnett reminded you of Aqib Talib. Why not bring him in?
Again,
it doesn't necessarily mean he has to start, but like that veteran mentor, especially on a defense that's so young. We don't really have too many older veterans on that side of the ball. I think the oldest
go down that door again. I mean, do we want to go down that path?
Well, it does. So here's my premise on it. So it does sound like they're going to bring in a veteran corner, at least according to Vic Tafer, of the Athletic, who's pretty darn good insider. He seems to think that they are going to bring in a veteran corner. So if you are, with what's available right now, I think you could do worse than Aqib Talib. It doesn't seem like there's a ton of great guys out there. I've always respected his game. I like his attitude. It seems to fit what we're building on defense. It makes sense to me, at least.
It makes sense, but just like everything we talked about, right? Especially this time of year, it's not so much the talent, it's the money.
Yeah, but I don't think he's gonna ask for a ton of money right now.
He's not gonna break the bank per se, but I mean, we only have a certain amount of dollars, so we got to make moves like that, so to speak.
Well, Joe's in the chat. He just made a good point. He says we got to lose a guy to add to lead. Like, who do you give up on?
Exactly, that's what I was going to say.
Johnson or Nixon?
Lawson.
Yeah, I don't know why the hell they re-signed him.
We're all in agreement on that one.
Yeah.
And he's suspended for the first game of the season.
It made no sense. I mean, the dude's a walking penalty. Yeah, and he can't catch. He's never had an interception in the league.
Yeah, he could have picked off Mahomes last year.
Oh God, it was just airmailed right to him. Dude. He couldn't. You or I could have caught that damn thing.
Hey, Nevin, fetch me a Gatorade, thanks, bro.
I mean, seriously, Patrick Mahomes literally threw the ball like directly to him. Nobody even around him, and he dropped it.
So, quick announcement I want to make. One of my buddies, Jeff Sykes, is in the chat room. I want to wish him a happy 50th birthday, old man.
Yeah,
his birthday a couple of days ago, and he chimes in and he says that Aqib Talib will have those guys as regulars at the strip club.
that reminds me, man. It's too bad the phones are not working.
As long as they keep 6 feet away.
As long as he doesn't shoot himself in the leg. That's what happened the last time.
Too bad the phones ain't working because I was really looking forward to see who's going to campaign for you this week. Was your mom this week?
We got a
birthday. Hey.
Hey, man, it's a family affair over here. My buddy Tom couldn't call in because the phone lines are down.
Yeah.
Which, speaking of Tom, he's a new addition to Franchise Sports Media.
Nice.
He's going to be the Raider historian. So he's going to be writing articles for us, Raider-related, and bring a Raider historical perspective. So that's pretty exciting. And he's going to kind of be the bridge from the LA Raiders, the Oakland Raiders to the Las Vegas Raiders.
Nice. I'm excited about that. See, I knew there was more meaning to all that than they just say Rooz is the god of the Raiders and stuff like that.
No, definitely not. It's a family affair, like I said.
Rooz, make the Raiders great again. We're gonna get you a hat. Rooz, and we'll make the
knock on wood. No, man, we're keeping politics out of this, man. There's already enough of that nonsense going around.
We're just campaigning for you, man. We're campaigning for your rise to the top, brother.
No, we're all going to rise together. I'm a man of the people.
There you go. See, he's already doing it. He's fit. Look at he knows.
I don't want all the accolades, man. I just want everybody to have a good time. I don't want all the praise for myself.
That's what we do here. We have a good time.
That's right. Too bad Joe's not in here.
Oh man, Joe can get it live, man. That guy cracks me up. When we get going, especially with a few cocktails, it gets pretty hyper. You guys don't believe us? Go check out all of our draft coverage. It gets really interesting at times.
Yeah, no. So Joe also said that he thinks that your boy Booker could kick your boy Richard off the roster.
I knew he was going to go there. I don't
know about that.
I don't think so. Again,
I don't think it's going to happen because his contract. He's got too much guaranteed money.
Well, not only that, again, we talked about it. He's a third down back, and I'm telling you, there's a lot to say about what he's going to be bringing. Whether or not Jacobs, I mean, we don't know. So they dotted their I's and crossed their T's, but this is one of those guys that can return kickoffs, punts if you need be. He could protect Carr.
Yeah, he'll fumble the punt. He had 3 fumbles in one game.
Well, I think that's what surprised me about the Lynn Bowden thing was that's kind of like the role that I envision him having.
Bowden is way more dynamic, and
I don't disagree with you. Yeah, I don't disagree with you. But neither guy is somebody that you want to be giving the ball, 10 times, handing the ball off.
Well, again, I want to make this clear real quick. I'm not saying that Richard is the running back of the Raiders or should be. I'm just saying he plays a role. I
think he's a great third down back.
For what they have him here for, right? To protect Carr in passing situations. He's the right now until someone takes him off that pedestal. And obviously they paid him the money to bring him back because they wanted to ensure that. That's what I'm saying. I'm not talking about how much I know Joe wants to tell me how much he fumbled the ball and all that stuff. But again, like protecting Derek Carr, making Derek Carr confident is why they brought him back because Derek Carr likes to play with confidence. So
Hey,
See,
speaking
Carr. Dang it! I brought up Carr.
what about tomorrow? Speaking of Raider news, the schedule's coming out tomorrow at 4:30.
No international games.
Yeah,
Thank
but they've
God.
canceled all of them.
Yeah.
Good. They shouldn't have international games ever. It's a horrible idea.
I see the marketing to it, but it really puts it and it's put us in a really bad spot the last 3. But,
They're just trying to do what the NBA did and try to take the game global, but you can't have a team in London and a team on the West Coast and have to go travel and make that a normal thing. Like that's just not.
Well,
Even if they're in a division on the East Coast, like how's that going to work? You have a 5-6 hour flight.
the only thing they've done is made us more popular. Like, we got some England fans over there. They sent us to Mexico. We own Mexico. You know what I mean? Like
it sounds like, though, with everything that's going on, like our first 4 games, it sounds like could potentially be all NFC opponents. Because if they do have to condense the season, those are the games that they're willing to.
Those are like the throwaway games. That
correct.
Make up.
So
Yeah.
for us, that would be, we're at home against the Saints, at home against Tampa Bay, on the road against the Panthers, and on the road against the Falcons. So those could be potentially your first 4 games. Those four teams.
I'm fine with that because as
Yeah.
it stands now, I think 3 out of those 4 teams will probably, give us all we can handle.
I always said this.
Yeah.
I always say this too. When you look at, just those teams, right? I mean, Breeze and the Saints, that's going to be one of the toughest out the gate because they've been together a while. But when you look at Brady and that Tampa Bay offense, it's going to be new.
I'd rather face them early in the season.
That's my point, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to give Brady time to build that continuity and get a rhythm going. Let's get him early. That's going to give us the best, and then that's if Brady's even where he was last year. I really think that there's an opportunity for his numbers to kind of even with the weapons he's got.
Yeah, that team's
Father Time is another beast, man.
Yeah, he's undefeated, and who knows? He's not going to have the same type of protection he had in New England,
Yeah.
But he's got a lot. That's a good team, man. But still, sometimes, ask Philly how buying a team works out. It doesn't always work out when you got too much talent. So.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it.
But yeah, that's 4:30 tomorrow on the Raiders.com.
Yeah,
for the schedule release.
I'm sure it'll be leaked earlier.
Yeah,
somebody will leak it some way, somehow.
It always has a way of creeping out earlier. People start putting it out on Twitter and all that. Yeah. So back to back to the schedule real quick. So how do you think that fares for us, especially our division alone, when we got to go to the Chiefs? That's going to automatically put us in the wintertime area right there.
Well, they always do. We always play Denver and Kansas City. It seems like on the road at the end of the year.
Always.
Hoping we get early and not be in the snow.
Right. But, Derek's going to have to exercise those demons, He does. He has not played well in Kansas City.
I thought we weren't talking about Carr tonight.
Yeah, well, shoot. Here I go.
Yeah, but twice now.
I think it's going to be critical for him to play well against Kansas City. Like we said all along, this is a make or break year for DC. So he's got to play well. He can't be the reason we lose.
Hey, I think Joe's going to join us here shortly.
I was like, I don't know if I want to touch that. There's things I could say to that. Well, they officially cut Kaiser.
Yeah.
To make room for Rodgers. I'm kidding.
Come on. You might have to give up Richard. Would you give up Richard to get Rodgers?
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Come on. I'm not in some Richard homer, man. I just try to look at it from a different perspective. I would totally get rid of Richard for Rodgers, but I can't see that. Could you imagine that though? Rodgers, Mariota, and Carr.
Hey, Knight, did you check with Joe? Joe's trying to jump on.
He has the code. He could pop right on. And is he trying to get video or is he trying to call in?
He's trying to get on video.
He could pop in. He's got all the code. He'll bombard us with his presence as soon as he can.
That's right. See, Jeff in the chat makes a good point. The O-line needs to stay healthy. That's a very good point because once the offensive line got injured, when Trent Brown went down, man, it was a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, Trent Brown needs to stay healthy.
Well,
But it screams to the depth and the way that they really fought hard through adversity, especially that offensive line last year. And
we've loaded up at the guard position, but our swing tackles leave a lot left to be desired. You know, we have Sharp, who I think is going to be that swing tackle right now. But yeah, besides him, there's really not much there. You know,
Brandon Parker's a turnstile, bro.
Yeah, and again, that's another one of an original Joe or John Gruden pick. You know, so we didn't get much in that draft.
You went Joe. Said Joe Gruden.
No, and then don't forget the White Tiger. You know,
pick
for him, and you know,
there's a lot of good. I think there's a lot of good talent. I mean, tackles are always hard to find anyway. If you can get really good depth at tackle, you did something right. So you always got to have your starting tackles play well and be healthy. But we got some tight ends that could block as well, and that kind of changes what we do offensively as well.
Like 10 tight ends that can block.
People talk about, why'd you go get Witten? Well, think about it. There's a lot of things that Witten can still bring to the table at his age. You know, they didn't bring Witten here to take Waller's job. I could tell you that. You know, they didn't bring Witten here to be the offensive playmaker that he was in Dallas. He's just a great piece in the red zone. And even on a bad year, probably his worst year he's ever had, he was still averaging over 8 yards a catch. I'll take that all day. I'll take that all day. So,
hey, Knight, Joe says send the link. He says,
oh, so you can't. Okay.
It's Witten's birthday today too. So
is it?
Yeah.
7, right?
Yeah, him and Foster Moreau have the same birthday, which is pretty crazy.
Oh,
yeah, 15 years apart.
And that's the crazy part is Witten is Foster Moreau's favorite player. That was like his idol.
And that, I mean, that fits. You know, they're both like similar type tight ends. They're not super athletic, but you know they can move the chains, and they're both physical, can block. You know, so you know I think that's a great person for Foster to learn behind. Well, you're not going to find somebody better than that.
The funny thing about Moreau is he has like sneaky athleticism, man.
Yes.
He's not some stiff.
No.
You know, usually those inline blocking guys, those guys they can't move. He's got some wiggle to him, and he made some really nice catches last year.
Yeah, and he's going to be a weapon in the red zone. You know.
He caught 5 touchdowns last year.
Right, and you know when he went down, that sucked. You know,
which was actually going to get to my next point. If you notice, like Trent, it was kind of like a domino effect. So you know, once Trent Brown got injured, and then Josh Jacobs got really bad, and he couldn't play.
Right.
And I think it was week 14 when against Tennessee, when Moreau went down.
Right.
You know,
and Josh Jacobs didn't play that game, I don't think, did he? Or he played minimally.
He played at the beginning of it. So, and then I think he missed the next game.
Yeah.
The next 2.
Yeah, he was done after that.
But Moreau, I mean, that was another outstanding draft pick, man. Pick. I mean, they hit a home man. It wasn't home runs. It was grand slam last year.
Totally. And then the value, you know, where they selected the guys, they just got really good value picking up guys later in the rounds. So, and it's kind of funny because like this past draft, the thing that I liked most about the draft was in that 3rd round. It seemed like they got guys at really good values, you know, and so and the 4th round too. I mean, if you look at Amik Robertson and the guard they got out of Clemson,
I like Simpson a lot because
you
know he's going to be penciled in to take over for Incognito after this year.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I don't think it's as much about Gabe Jackson as Incognito. You know,
Incognito I think has like 8 or 9 years on Gabe. I mean,
he's old,
bigger, but and as good as Incognito played last year, I mean, if he, you know, at some point the wheels are going to fall off. Right,
he's not a long-term solution by any means.
No, I mean he was awesome last year. He played outstanding.
Right,
nobody would have thought. I mean, he you can make the case that he was our best offensive lineman last year.
Yeah, no, totally. And that was a guy that they signed late, you know, kind of late in the process. So that was a good pickup by them.
Look at Joe. Are you at a quinceañera or something?
What's up, Janikowski? Hey, look here. All right.
Here comes Joe Gruden.
I'm
Here
gonna
it
tell
is.
you. I'm gonna tell you something. I'm Joe Gruden. All right, brother. All right. So hey, look here, Knight. I heard you talking shit. All right.
Cat shit, by
I
the way.
don't appreciate when you talk shit. Anyway, you guys doing a great job tonight, man. And I'm sorry I had to come on a little bit late. I have,
You're good.
I had franchise business to take care of. So, Rooz, welcome. Great job tonight, brother. It's good to see you. And
Oh,
you. So you guys talked about, you brought up the schedule. We were talking about the schedule, and I wanted to jump on because I have an interesting thought about the schedule that I don't think too many people are talking about. And I would look at the first 4 or 5 games of the year. If those games, let's say, are against the NFC South, all 4 games where they play the Buccaneers, the Panthers, the Saints, and the Falcons, those could be games that they actually drop from the schedule and start the season later. Should the pandemic continue on? Because from what I was told, and I kind of broke the news late Friday night, that the MGM has no longer they've suspended or paused or canceled, however you want to look at it, the Raiders tailgate village that they had planned to do, which was 2,500 people from 8 a.m. until the final game of the night on Sunday Night Football on Sundays, with it would basically be like a little tram and golf carts taking you straight to the stadium, and it would be $85 a pop. MGM laid off 2,000 people, including their vice president of outdoor entertainment and his entire team. So because of that, look for that and their reasoning is they've been told behind the scenes that the NFL doesn't anticipate fans being allowed in stadiums until at least November or December.
Yeah, and I think that's, they're going to know better than anybody. Vegas knows things before, the public does. So, I think that's pretty telling. That's why I brought up the point, with the NFC teams. I could see that being your first 4 games, because if they do have to get rid of games, those are going to be the ones that they're willing to sacrifice, it sounds like.
Well, here's a thought.
Yeah. What's that, bro?
Would you prefer to have play a full 16-game season and have no fans for the first half of the season? Or would you rather have them delay the season to maybe the first 4 weeks or 6 weeks or whatever and play like a 10 or 12-week season with fans?
That's a good question.
The no fans thing doesn't really bother me.
It doesn't. See,
No.
from a player's perspective, they want fans there.
Well, yeah, I'm
There's
sure they
different
do.
juice. Otherwise, I mean, like, I forget who it was that said it today.
man.
Sorry if there's backlight, but I think it was someone from the Panthers that said it. He said something to the effect of, it'll feel just like a scrimmage.
Yeah.
Which I think is a very valid point with that, because as a player, you don't necessarily want to deal with no fans, and there is some juice when you come out the tunnel. You get a little amped up and you feel like you're gonna you get a little extra. So because of that,
Off the crowd.
I feel like so I think, but me personally, I err on the side of caution in general. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, in all honesty, like, that's why when they open things back up in the world, I'm probably not going anywhere for at least 2.5 weeks to maybe a month, because I want go ahead and get everything out and let other people get. I'm trying to be safe. I like breathing and whatnot. So I err on the side of caution in that regard. So I don't think I think what the NFL is going to do, because they're already losing money. Like, I know. Did you guys see the thing that the NFL released, or someone got from the NFL? They're projecting like the Patriots lose $32 million in ticket sales. No, in ticket sales.
Oh.
Like there's teams. The Raiders weren't in that group. Like the Chargers were at like 22 million. Like they're gonna lose in ticket sales, and Chargers can't afford to lose something like that. So
TV
that's
revenue
the case.
They're not go up either.
It's not.
TV already paid.
Yeah, that they got their $250 million or whatever it was, in March. So, I don't know when it comes to that. It's a great question, Ruse. I would say personally, I would probably want to see a shortened season with fans. That would be what I would want. Let's push the start back like 5 to 6 weeks and see where things are at. But at this point, we're going to be living a walking, a real life, immunization. So it's going to be like herd immunization, so to speak, survival of the fittest, I believe. So with that being said, I think they should push it back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would much rather have fans. I mean, playing with no fans. I mean, basketball you could do it because the crowd isn't as involved in the basketball game or even baseball as it is with football. I mean, it's just I don't know, man. It would just be weird.
There's been a lot of people that have been going through this whole thing. A lot of people have gone through it. Some people are done and given up. Some of us are forced to kind of stick with the program. As much as I want fans there, I want to get rid of this first. Like literally, I want to make sure that there's some type of solid treatment, some vaccination, only because I don't want to be told I'm shut down again for another 2 months in my home.
Well, I don't think that's going to happen.
You just don't want to be you just don't want to be a teacher anymore.
I don't want to be a teacher. I told the guy the other day. He goes, "How's it going?" I said, "Great. I'm coming out of quarantine into AA."
Yeah. And I don't think there's going to be, it doesn't sound like at least that there's going to be any vaccine before.
No, there's not going to be.
So they're going to have to come up with some sort of contingency plan where, these guys are all staying together and not leaving. And that's pretty hard to do with a roster size that's way bigger than the NBA, bigger than the, MLB. That could be potentially pretty difficult.
MLB starting. Plus baseball starting in like a month or less than a month and a half. So
it's not just the rosters too with football. It's the equipment guys, it's the strength and conditioning people, it's the film people. I mean, it's a whole operation.
Yeah,
it's like a small city when an NFL team comes to town.
Right.
But one thing that the NFL does have is, since they start later traditionally than the other sports, I think the NBA and baseball could kind of be the guinea pigs for it and see how it goes. I mean, September is still 4 months away.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because
right, the traveling aspect to it all.
Well, you broke up. I did. Yeah, the traveling aspect is
an issue.
Yeah, the traveling aspect is going to be different. But it's funny, Ruse, that you bring up the NBA. Jeff Waterlove from Franchise, he's working on a story that's going to come out soon, but he got from a guy that has worked in the NBA for 30 years. One of his sources told him that Commissioner Silver of the NBA wants to, play in the bubble, play in Vegas or Orlando, which everybody knows, but he's pushing for it. But owners are pushing back, and some owners are saying we don't want to even play the season. So there's
sorry, Lakers fans.
Shut up.
It's okay. We still got another 11 championships.
Not when Anthony Davis walks away.
Are you crazy? What do you think? Hey, he's not Kevin Durant.
No, he's not.
But I think the thing when it comes down to it, I'll bring it forward to today or this week. The Raiders rookies start a rookie mini camp this Friday, the 8th, and it's a virtual mini camp. So you'll have every rookie there and undrafted guys that they may want to quote unquote try out. They're gonna have their playbook. They're gonna have their jerseys. They're gonna have all that stuff done, and it's all gonna be done virtually. So. I mean, it's crazy. And I think a week later is when you have the vets come in, and then they get with the veterans in a virtual OTA or whatever you want to call it.
It's not going to be the same. It's not going to work, man.
So there's a lot of different things and this leads to, and I'll take it back to the draft and to Ruggs, and really the 4 or 5 receivers that were taken in the first round. That's the hardest position other than quarterback to learn in the NFL, because you got to learn route adjustments and the whole offense and how they want to use you and whatnot. maybe that's why some of those receivers slipped or even, went later than what people thought, because maybe some of the teams felt, you know what, I don't want to have to teach a rookie in an abbreviated offseason, an abbreviated training camp, they're not going to be impact guys anyway. They're a year away no matter what. So you have a completely different perspective of how some teams may have viewed people. Now, I don't think that's the case necessarily with, obviously it's not the case with the Raiders and Ruggs and Edwards in particular. But Ruggs' IQ is through the roof. He's a smart dude. Edwards is another smart dude. I don't care what a Wonder League says. I'm talking to scouts and evaluators that are telling me these things.
Yeah, what's his football like? Yeah.
Yeah, so you guys that can maybe pick up a playbook faster, maybe that went into some guys being picked before other guys, would surprise some people.
Yeah, and also, you don't have to learn much to run fast. Just run down the field.
Yeah.
Open it up for everyone else.
Yeah, it'll be interesting for those rookies, and not just the rookies, but the free agents that we brought in as well. They have to learn the system as well. So it's definitely not an ideal situation if you're getting put onto a new team, and the Raiders have a ton of new players this year. So it's going to be interesting to see how they transition without much of an offseason, if there is even one.
Exactly.
In one of the comments, Autumn Win TV, I think that's Gus, I believe. He said, what about Tampa Bay versus Vegas for Thursday night? I don't think that's going to happen. Traditionally, if you look at the Thursday night kick, it's called the Kickoff Classic, I believe is what they call it. It's always usually the team that was in the Super Bowl the year before.
It'll be the Chiefs.
Yeah. Or sometimes it could be the losing team as well. But
I could see Tampa being Sunday or Monday night, one of those two nights, coming to Vegas.
I could see Monday and it being the late game on Monday night.
Yeah.
Where they'll get more of a draw. I think Sunday night's going to be one of
the Rams. I think it'll probably be the Rams.
Sophie.
Yeah.
It should be the Rams. The Chargers should.
Yeah.
Chargers should not have the first game at that stadium.
Have you seen that Oculus?
It's crazy.
It's insane.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I dig it.
Yeah.
I dig it.
Yeah.
It could be. It also could be the Chiefs versus the Chargers to open the stadium up, and then you could have the Rams on the first Sunday night.
I would think that they give the Chiefs home though.
No way, Kroenke lets the Chargers open up that stadium. No way.
And there's no way they're going to put
even without fans.
No way. No, I'm saying, and that's the thing with no fans there. There's no way in hell they're going to allow the two AFC West teams. Because what if they have to cancel those games last minute, right?
Yeah.
Because now you're missing a division game. That's why I'm saying look for the out of conference games to be the first few games that are played, because you can lose those games and there's no harm, no foul.
And that would give
that's something
the Chargers too, and that's not fair. Because they're used to playing with no fans.
That would do what for the Chargers? Oh well, yeah.
They get an advantage because they're used to not playing with.
So today on Twitter, it's funny you say that, because Nick Hamilton put something out about. I think Nick Hamilton, he's a good follow. He covers the Rams and the Chargers at LA Sports from a great company called Nightfall Media. Nick and I do a show for SB Nation, and Nick tweeted out. That's where I got the list of the projected losses per team for season ticket sales of what they would lose at the gate, and the Chargers were in there. And one of the Chargers fans goes, Chargers, something about them not worrying about it. And I was like, bro, like, do you understand that their PSL sales are down? The Rams are pissed off. The NFL is concerned. Like, the Rams are pissed that they're not even paying what they need to be paying to play in the stadium, because their estimations are way higher than what they're actually going to be. They highball themselves, or just honestly overthought what Southern California, how they view the Chargers. And they can't, they still haven't sold out their home games or their luxury boxes or PSLs. And he's like, you don't know this. And I'm like, bro, like Fred Rogan, who's the dean of LA Sports, has reported on this months ago. Nick has talked about it. So I got a phone call from Nick, I'd say about 5:30. He was like, hey, man, leave me out of your shit on Twitter, man. You're bringing me into your beast. I said, it's your tweet.
Yeah.
I'm defending you.
Well, this is kind of off topic, but kind of still on topic, I've been watching the latest season of Bosch on Amazon Prime.
Oh yeah.
And it's based in LA, and there's multiple scenes where they like have like the sports memorabilia in the background, and it's Dodgers, Lakers, Raiders, and I think that's pretty telling. LA is still holding on to a team like the Raiders when you don't see Rams or Charger stuff in the background. I mean, it's kind of silly, but I think it goes into that mindset that really both those teams don't belong there, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Well,
that
first
scene
that
in that show.
winning kills everything, dude. Like winning will heal all of it. Like one of those teams go win the Super Bowl. One of those teams really start putting the players behind winning the Super Bowl, and it'll change the culture of how they're viewed.
Well, we have another new writer named Ashley Dickinson. Ashley is actually writing a piece right now about the original Las Vegas Raider, Henry Ruggs, because he is the first truly only Las Vegas Raider. Other guys, free agents don't count. And she's actually also talking about the original Los Angeles Raider in Marcus Allen in the article. So in seeing her first draft and stuff, it's really intriguing how she's using the parallel between the two. And that's something that to this day, I mean, when I go back down to SoCal, go back home or whatever, you see Raider Nation is strong there. And that's part of the reason why the NFL didn't want them there, because they knew that if the Raiders were to come back to Los Angeles, Stan Kroenke and the Rams wouldn't have a chance. That's why they kind of gave Mark, hey, where do you want to go? We'll make sure that you get there and you'll have the votes to go, provided you get a stadium deal done.
So speaking of which, Joe, there was that San Antonio flirtation. Was there ever any traction to that?
The Superdome?
No, there's about as much truth to that as there was to the Carson, the Carson project that they're going to share with the Chargers. I mean, that Carson project was basically on a trash dump. It was on an old, dump, and the ground was spoiled and it was contaminated. There's nothing you could build there. So everybody from LA knew it, and we were just kind of like, and at the time I was at the Beast 980, and I was doing afternoon drive, and before me was Fred Rogan, and we would laugh about it in our crosstalk segment. Like, are you kidding? Like, do you hear this? Like, who really, if you're from LA, do you really that they're going to put the stadium where it is, where it used to be an old dump? Like, that makes no sense whatsoever. So the same thing with San Antonio. From what I was told from people, and I shared this with Knight privately, and I don't think I've shared it with Chris or I may have shared it with Chris. I don't think I've ever shared it with you, Rooz. From what I was told from people that were in the know, like, they are sources. There was a meeting that took place between Roger Goodell, Sheldon Adelson, Andy Aboud, Mark Davis, Mark Bedane, Kroenke, the Spanos, Kraft, Jerry Jones, and I forget the guy's name who was in charge of the stadiums and relocation. Mark Grubman was his name, I believe. And there was this meeting down at after an owners meeting, and they had it in San Diego. And they kind of just went off to their own and said, look, Stan is going to get LA. Okay, we're going to make sure he owns the land. He's building this Taj Mahal of a stadium. He's also going to put the NFL Network studios in there. He laid it all out for him. They said the ideal situation would be, we want to have 4 locker rooms in there. Okay, obviously 2 for away teams, but 2 home. We would like to spend 10 years or so, but let the Rams get a foothold for market. We'd like to keep San Diego as a market because we love San Diego. But we know there's work to be done. So Dean, you have to be patient. Mark, you bring Sheldon Adelson and Andy Aboud. Sheldon Adelson owns the Sands Corporation. Andy Aboud is his vice president. Like they guaranteed the money for the stadium and that they would get it to pass legislature. Now the NFL had their worries about the DraftKings and the gambling, but in Vegas or in the state of Nevada, you can't use DraftKings or the other one at all because that's illegal. You have to go to a sports book or use like William Hill or something like that, whatever app you have, Stations Casino, whatever. And Jerry Jones and Robert Kraft each have minority stock in DraftKings. Like they're partial owners of DraftKings, and that's something that never gets reported. Other than people like me and Vinny Bonsignor had talked about it, Jason Cole, a few others. So they're like, look, we want to legalize DraftKings and whatnot in Vegas. So that's their aim, because then they can make money from it. But in turn, Adelson was like, okay, I can guarantee it. I want to go to Vegas. Mark was like, this is where I want to go. So they're okay, we'll do it, but this is how we have to do it. And they orchestrated everything. The NFL does things in plain sight. And with the NFL, you have to listen to what is not being said. If they're telling you this is happening here, here, and here, then at the end of the day, it's kind of what did they leave out, because that's what's actually happening. And so the Carson thing was kind of a ruse, no pun intended, to get things done. It was also a way to kind of either get something done, which was very open to doing, but it didn't work out, or to move somewhere. And it allowed the Chargers to do something in San Diego. Well, when all this started happening, things rolled, and it was okay. This is how we're going to do it. And they gave San Diego right of first refusal, but they didn't think they were going to use it. Mark obviously gets Las Vegas. The state approves the $750 million for the stadium. Mark gets going on everything. Allison wants 3% ownership of the Raiders. Mark says, no, I'm not selling for a variety of reasons, but no. The NFL didn't want him in there, even though he hangs out with those guys. They're all part of the same Billionaire Boys Club. And what ends up happening is Allison pulls out. Mark the Raiders already had 3 or 4 different banks that were ready to go with loans. So they just chose the best one. So they went with B of A. And then so Dean Spanos sees all this stuff going on, and he's still fighting with San Diego. He's still trying to get them to, I can just do this, I can do that, I can do this, I can do that. They're not listening. They're not even trying to rock with them like that. So he goes to the NFL and says, look, I know I'm getting money from the G's, the G4, G5 account for stadiums. I need another 175 or something like that $1 million. They're like, well, we're not giving you any more money. So he goes to Kroenke and like, look, if you don't want me moving in your stadium, loan me this money, I'll give it back to you. Because he's the poorest. People talk about Mark Davis being the poorest owner. No, it's actually the Spanos. So he's just like, I need this money. Stan Kroenke goes, no, like I'm footing the bill for this stadium. No one's chipping in on this. So break bread or tear ass. At that point, Mark and the Raiders were in New York presenting a stadium proposal and their financing and everything to the committee when they threw it. And he ends up telling the NFL, I'm moving to LA, which pissed off the NFL, pissed off owners, and he's still, I mean, he if you're talking about someone that the NFL is going to have it out for, probably be the Spanos, and his end game in the next 5 to 7 years, turn it over to his son, and they can go ahead and sell it for a profit. That's their end game. So that's the relocation story in a nutshell.
Yep, that was interesting, and it all makes sense too, because that's the way corporate run. No matter what sport or big industry you are, that's how corporate works. There's feelers that are put out. There's plans that are put out. The first thing you hear usually is not the way it's going to go. It's always the second or third that end up happening.
But most of the time, it's all predetermined, So
yeah, there's a process they got to play, right?
They got to keep fans interested.
That's why they even say bad news can be good news for clubs or for players or for actors. Sometimes getting your name in the media helps you. I mean, depending on exactly what it is that's hurting you. I mean, there's rules to that too, but
Eazy-E said it best when he said, all publicity is good publicity.
Definitely worked out because that stadium looks pretty sick in Vegas right now.
Yep.
There's a guy that I follow on one of his YouTube channels that he makes videos, since I'm out here in Oakland. But man, that thing looks pretty sick. I like the way it's coming together.
And it's our stadium. We're not sharing with anybody.
Right.
That's
No
the best.
baseball field.
Oh God, that dirt, man, makes me cringe.
Well, but one of the things that, if I'm gonna be honest, one of the things that's frustrating to me right now, and I'm very rarely critical of what organizations and teams do, but I'm gonna be critical of the Raiders and UNLV right now. There's a situation going on where, the new athletic director scheduled a game against Cal, and that's supposed to open up the season August 29th, should there be a college football season. That would probably open the stadium other than maybe a preseason game. But there's two other games, La Tech and Arizona State, that the previous athletic director had scheduled. And whomever from UNLV negotiated this dropped the ball, because the Raiders for this season only have the right of first refusal for when it comes to scheduling, and they're not allowing UNLV to play games at the stadium. In fact, UNLV has to play La Tech at Sam Boyd Stadium, which they had a big farewell to Sam Boyd at the end of last year, at their last home game, second to last game of the year. And Arizona State, they're still trying to figure out what they're going to do. Arizona State is more than willing to move the game to like a Thursday night or a Friday or whatever to accommodate the Raiders. But right now, there's no movement. And what's disappointing for me is, for a team like the Raiders that has had to endure dealing with people telling them when they can use the stadium, when they can't use the stadium, so when they're kind of playing hardball with UNLV. And it's frustrating for me on the other side, because UNLV's legal team or whomever should have done a better job of making sure they knew what the hell they were doing and what goes in the contract. For $750 million of a partial, as a 0.07% of a state tax, UNLV has to have a bigger role in the stadium. And I know everybody's just the Raiders stadium, the Raiders colors, but in all fairness to UNLV, this stadium would not have gotten done if UNLV was not involved.
Well, above and beyond that, the biggest thing I think I took away from what you said is, after all the years, and I know primarily it was with Al, but Mark Davis has the greatest opportunity here to start over fresh and be beloved by a city, to be accepted, to have this stadium, just to not having to deal with the headaches of dealing with committees from the county and the city, and they're being against each other, uphill fight the whole time. This is something that you don't want to start off on a bad note. And for me, I get it. There's a lot of pride going into the fact that he finally had something his dad longed for years. I get it. And wanting to be the team that sets it off and all that. But to me, it's not going to make a difference whether UNLV goes in there and plays the game first or however that lines up, because it's always going to be the Raiders' home. And that's what he needs to be proud of. It don't matter what, when, and how you play in there right now. You have a home, something you haven't had in a state-of-an-art stadium, a city that's all yours. You're not in competition with the Niners across the bay. You're not in competition with all these Silicon. Vegas is yours. Embrace it. And UNLV is a part of that. And I agree. I think they should I think it's a problem that could be solved real easily. And I think it'll give Mark Davis great publicity and moving forward when it comes to dealing with Vegas and UNLV.
Yeah, and I don't know nearly enough about what's going on.
Yeah, I agree. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on, like why they wouldn't allow UNLV to play there. There must be a reason.
Pride?
Contractually, they're not obligated to. Like they have, for this season only, they have the right of first refusal, because those two games were scheduled 4 years ago or so. They had to agree to those games, where the Cal game was like a year and a half ago. And the new athletic director, Desiree Reed-Pardon, the current athletic director, Desiree, is the one that scheduled the Cal game, where Tina Kunzer Murphy is the one who scheduled the other games. So because someone just let the language out the contract, and the Raiders are contending that they can make more money at the stadium if they had a concert or a WWE event or something like that.
I see.
Have it
But
now,
at the same,
right?
but at the same time, you're gonna, yeah. But I mean, at the same time, you're gonna make that money regardless. You know what I mean? You know, you're gonna make that money. Everybody's gonna come to that stadium regardless. And I think it for a team moving into a new city, I think it would behoove them to do something. Like say, okay, look, the La Tech game, or we can move there. That's already being played at Sanborn. You guys already announced that. But that Arizona State game, let's move that game to like 7:30 on a Thursday night. They can go on ESPN. Allegiant will get all that publicity for looking at the stadium and whatnot. It would be a better look for them. And to me, and knowing the parties involved, I'm really surprised they haven't came to some type of an agreement and even reconciliation, because to find a resolution like this would be difficult, you know. And it kind of sucks, to be honest with you. And I'm saying that in part because I cover UNLV as much as I cover the Raiders, and I'm getting at that stadium, 15, 16 times this year covering those teams. So it's going to be kind of difficult. It's going to, for me, it kind of sucks because, my boy is closer to the career in Vegas. But, I mean, really, it's like, I would much rather be at Allegiant Stadium doing, covering a game or whatnot. That's something that in Vegas is kind of a bigger story than it is anywhere else.
So here's a potential scenario. Maybe the reason why the Raiders haven't stepped up yet is maybe because there is a strong likelihood that there might not be a college football season. So maybe they're just holding off to see how that shakes out.
This has been going on. This has been going on for 7 or 8 months.
Oh,
it's
wow.
been going on for almost a year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not like it's just happening.
Yeah,
like this has been going on for some time.
Right.
So yeah, if it was something like recent, I would say yeah. But
do you think maybe Mark thinks he's like big fish in a small pond now that he's got an NFL team in Vegas?
I don't think it's necessarily Mark. I mean, there's other people that are negotiating. I mean, there's attorneys and there's people that run the business. I think Mark Davis. I've talked to Mark about this at length, and this is what he said to me. He goes, Joe, I hired people to do their jobs. Okay, I hired Mark Bedane to run the business side because Mark is smart. He's got a vision, and I trust him. I don't interfere with what he does. I hired John and Mike to do their jobs, and I don't interfere with the football side of things because they know it way more than me. I sit back and look like the smart guy and let them do their jobs. Great businessmen do that. Rooz, I don't. Okay, and I'll use franchises as an example. I don't tell Knight, you need to talk about this on the show. I don't tell Chris, hey, Chris, you need to talk about this receiver. I don't tell you, Russo, man, you need to write. This is what you need to write about. It's what you want to write about. What do you do? Do your thing, and I'm gonna support you 100%. Franchise has your back 100%.
Right. Yeah.
So
good example.
So Mark's doing the same thing. Like, hey, John, you handle football. Mark, you handle business, and we're good. And he's staying out of it. So I just think it's the lawyers, and then maybe UNLV is unwavering. I don't know because I'm not privy to that. And then maybe the Raiders are being unrelenting as well. And I don't think it's personal by any means. It's not what they dealt with Lee Schaff and how personal it got from the Bay to the whole organization. But I do think that there is kind of a like, really, you're really going to F us right now type mentality. You're really going to shaft us right now. Like, you guys are just coming to our city. We've been here since 57. You're coming here right now to do it.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. That kind of sounds like an old school Al Davis move where he's just like, I don't give
And that's my point. There's a lot more to this story. We just got done talking about how this works. I'm sure there's a lot more behind the scenes going on. There's so much more that going on with this than what's being let out. And I know all the comments I made on the last time I talked about it just a few minutes ago. I'm coming from a perspective of how it's going to look for Davis and the Raiders, especially after the situation we just got out of, and his stance on what he had to deal with, his stance on what his father had to deal with. And there's a lot of untold stories there that we don't know that may come out as years go on. And I just don't want the perception anyway, whether it's the truth or not. I don't want the perception to be that the Raiders are too prideful to let this go. That's all.
Gus is taking it back to the old school with his Irwindale deal. Oh my God! Don't get Jeff involved on the Irwindale. Jeff has a sweet spot for Irwindale.
And Joe has a sweet spot for Riverdale.
And you got a sweet spot for Richard. We're gonna buy you a Richard jersey.
I tried to think real quick on the fly.
Hey.
I got it. I just don't got a response to that.
Yeah.
But again,
look,
I'm not going to get into the Richard thing. Come on.
Well, no, I'm going to say this, and I was listening to you guys, and I was trying to get the link sent to me because I didn't want to jump on the computer and do everything. I just want to do it from the phone right now. Here's my take on it, because someone asked me it. Booker's a bigger back. He's a more physical back. If he is healthy and has his weight under control, he could be a sledgehammer. Lamont Jordan, I think, would be, if we're going to compare to an old school Lamont Jordan type, okay? A Ty Wheatley type. You all you want.
Lamont Jordan actually had a really good season, I think, his first year.
Yeah.
He did. But I'll flip it to with Richard. Bowden Jr. does things other than maybe knowing the protection scheme like Knight would like him to know. He does everything better than Richard. He's a better receiver out the backfield. He returns kicks and punts. He doesn't put the ball on the ground. He's an explosive running back. And he actually, it's $1 million. It's like he's making, I think Richard's making is 2 years of 5. He's getting 5 guaranteed, something like that.
It's like 2 years, like $7.5 million with like $5 million plus fully guaranteed or something. I mean, maybe
you could trade, but here's the thing: with the new collective bargaining agreement, you can spread that out. So it's like cap hit, you can spread out over like 3 or 4 years. So the cap hit goes from being, let's say, $5 million, if it's whatever it is guaranteed, you can spread over 3 years. It's $1.5 million, and that's not that bad.
I'm not getting rid of Richard for, oh boy, Booker.
No, my point is because
I think it was Devontae Freeman. I thought it was going to be Devontae Freeman.
Freeman, that's the name. I keep saying that's who I thought it was. Right, isn't that who it is? Isn't Freeman? I thought it was a dude on the Broncos. That's from Sacramento.
Yeah,
Booker. Yeah, that's Booker.
Okay, it's Booker. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I'm thinking of Freeman from Oregon.
Hey, the thing is, and I got to make this point again because I feel like a broken record, but I don't just think you're hearing me, Joe. I'm not saying that Richard's the backup to Jacobs. I always said there had to be a guy brought in to be a spell for Jacobs, and that is Booker. All I've ever said is Richard is the third down guy that protects Carr's ass. That's it. I don't expect him to back up Jacobs and be the thumper at all.
But as a scheme, though, Knight, you don't bring a small third down receiving back to protect.
Did you hear how he raved about him last year when he got hurt and what it meant? Like, Gruden believes in this guy because he knows the system and he knows the looks and what he needs to protect. That goes a long way with an X and O coach. And Gruden's an X and O coach, and Richard knows the X's and O's. He's not ready to give that up. Now, I will agree that guys like Bowden, Jacobs, and even a guy like Booker is going to be an understudy to that, and his days are numbered, but I don't see it right away. He's going to be that's going to be his spot to lose, and I don't see him losing it, not this year.
Well, here's how I look at it. Okay, it's never a bad thing to have a lot of depth and have to make a tough cut or tough decision. So, this is far better than what we've had in years past. So, and Joe, I got a question for you about Booker. I had heard going into that draft that we were really high on Booker, and we really liked him, but for some reason they didn't end up selecting him. He went in like the 4th round out of Utah. Do you know anything about that?
No, I don't. I don't know anything about that.
Okay.
Off the top of my head, I don't. Maybe I have something in my notes.
I don't think he makes the team. I'll be honest.
Because that was the same draft that that they got DeAndre Washington out of. They ended up taking him in the 5th
If
round.
he makes the team, we got a problem.
Guys, you know, I don't mean I'm gonna change it real. I'm gonna flip it real quick. Did you guys see Vic's article? Vic Tafor's article. Tafer Tafor. Sorry, Vic. I don't mean to disrespect you, bro.
He's a big dude.
Big Vic, right? See Big Vic's article. It was talking about Gruden's offense and Carr's rolling it, and how the checkdowns and the not throwing the ball deep is more on Gruden than it is Carr, because that's all part of the offense.
Yeah.
It's like a triangle read. It's you know, it's 1, 2, 3, and it's like 1 not there, 2 not there, 3 go. You know, so I have a feeling in the next week we're gonna have an article on Franchise about Carr and his role in the offense, and it's gonna basically be, this is appreciate what you have, because before him there wasn't a lot, and there's going to be stuff behind it as proof, but it's also going to be, guess what, he's got weapons now and he needs to utilize them. So I think that article will be coming out, I think, next Wednesday on Franchise. I think Tom is writing that, our new writer, which we're excited to bring on. I know Rooz mentioned him earlier, and he'll be joining actually this show for a brief segment every week, talking about Raider history, and that, you know, and he's kind of like our Pro Football Focus guy, because this dude watches games from he has every game from 1982 until current on tape, other than like the 82 Bengal.
I don't even know what his garage must look like. It's all videotapes,
bro. Like, I'm impressed, but he will watch film. He'll watch the game 3 or 4 times and break it down and say, this is what they did good, bad, and this is what they did great, and how they'll look back, and he'll project forward for the next week. So he's a bit, I like what Tom's going to bring. With that being said, though, like, I think, and I know you don't like talking about Carr night, but at least right now, but I think it's prudent that people understand his role in the offense and everything that he does, not just on the field, but taking the bullets for people, because he's done that. I mean, the dude should be, you remember the old cartoons where a guy gets shot up and he drinks some water and water's flying out everywhere? Like, that's Derek Carr with Raider Nation right now. I mean, he's taking all the bullets for everybody.
About him, dude. And it's not that I don't believe in the guy. It's just how many times do we have to sit here and make the case for Carr? Like, you know what I'm saying? And the bottom line is the ones that get it, and the ones that don't. And we talk about it, and people. I do this blind show that I do, and people follow me over there, and they're like, "Oh, your communication is just like Carr and Gruden's." Like that, I get it everywhere I go. I can't even get away from it. It's just like, I would love to talk about Carr and his role on this offense. And if you go back and you look at especially what he did last year, personally, I know there's mistakes, but everybody makes mistakes. It's just, I'm done defending him, because I feel like his tape will defend himself if people really look at it from the right perspective. And, I'm not saying he has nothing to prove. I'm just saying that he's a lot better quarterback than people give him credit for. And it gets exhausting defending somebody when people already got their mind made up.
Well, I think more than anything, Raider fans are just tired of losing, man. I mean,
I get that.
One winning season in the last 17 or 18 or whatever the hell it is, it's like, it wears on you, man. I mean, it gets hard to get excited for games when, it seems like the outcome is predetermined. Like, it's
I'm the quarterback, man. That's some old school bad blood. You ever think about the referees and some of the articles that came out beginning of this year, talking about a study that somebody did that found some discrepancies in the way that the reffing was done, especially in certain situations. And I don't remember the details, so I'm not going to try to be real specific about it. But I often think that, because a lot of that regime is gone. Al's been gone for a while now. I mean, like, why is this continuing? And I think it's because, who brought you up? I mean, some of these refs were brought up in that era, and it's just something that they're accustomed to, and old habits are hard to break. And I think it's more reactionary than real anymore. And I think more studies like this will help make awareness of it, and it'll stop them from that reaction, that pulse they got every time the Raiders are on the field to pull a flag, and actually, let them play football like everybody else. Because I don't think at this point, I don't think it's been that way for years, that it's deliberate anymore.
Yeah.
It's just more of a reactionary thing.
And I'll say this about Derek Carr, those short intermediate throws, like Joe was saying, that is by design. That is the John Gruden's offense by design. I think where, I get frustrated as a fan is that, Derek Carr has such a grasp of the offense, and it seems like he knows what John Gruden wants him to do. And it seems like it's almost become robotic, where he can't make plays outside of the initial design. And I think that's where the frustration comes in, is I think when you can incorporate those two, you blend those two together where you have a good grasp of the offense, but, if things aren't perfectly, aligned, after the snap, can you make a play? And I think that's where he struggled since his MVP caliber season.
Yeah, sometimes you bring an apple to sometimes you just throw it at them.
But if you talk to Green Bay fans, and you even talk to Patriot fans that are going to be honest, that's the same problems they have with their quarterbacks. And those are two guys that are going into the Hall of Fame, first ballot guys. I can tell you right now, Aaron Rodgers, he is not what he was 3 years ago or 4 years ago. He's become a guy where he misses deep balls. He doesn't stay. He tries to break the offense, and you see that a lot. He throws balls away instead. He could, maybe he literally will come off receiver one that's running wide open and try to and go to receiver three. He's not open and throw the ball away, and this guy's running fastest in front of him, and he'll get the ball out. I mean, you have those same arguments with teams. Now, I understand the frustration with the offense, but at the same time, how much that is receivers not doing their route adjustment? They're not in the right place. And Carr's expecting them in the right place. He sees everything. The receiver doesn't. So if now he's like, well, he's not there, but I don't want to. I can't do it. And then he throws the check down. And let's be real, the West Coast offense is a lot of check downs where you get the ball. If it's 36, you're going to throw that 3rd and 4. You're expecting that player to make plays with the run after the catch. So and guys aren't doing that. So
and I think the way that I think the way that they drafted this year shows you that they wanted to get more dynamic at the receiver position, so that when Carr does go short and intermediate, that those guys can do something with the ball in their hands. And I definitely think that you see that they emphasize that this offseason.
That was always my argument back in the day when I would battle with Niner fans, and we would talk about Joe Montana and the originator, quarterback with the West Coast offense. Oh, Joe was great. And I always make the funny argument of, hey, well, all he had to do is throw 5 yards to John Taylor or Jerry Rice, and they did the rest of it, right? And that was an ongoing joke. I know that Montana is the greatest guy that ever played the game. But you're seeing that now. You're actually seeing that. TQ, did you hear that? And as you see that, as you see it develop now in the West Coast offense, that's what Gruden's trying to build. Now, I say there's two things, right? Number one, mainly, is it is John Gruden's system. And John Gruden, by design, needs to open it up in the type of offense that is ran these days. He needs to open it up a little bit. He can stay true to who he is, but he can still open it up at the same time. And then Carr needs to be a little bit more just combative, and he's got to be the athlete that he is. If you see him off the field, he can play basketball. He's an athletic guy. He can run. He jumps. Just use your athleticism. Make a play. That's all that I think that I ask of. And I
want to see him play pissed off. If you look back at this season, that first game, with all the shit that was going on with AB, he played pissed off.
I think
and he had one of his best games.
The whole team was pissed off. But
yeah, I wish I would see that out of him.
Let me speak my point on Carr real quick. So it seems like we all have a love-hate relationship with Carr. Most Raider fans seem to be fed up, right? They've had enough of Carr. But in his defense, I mean, if you look at the team and you look at the players, like All those guys we brought in last year, they were all first-year guys. I mean, Waller was there the year before, but he really wasn't the focal point of the offense. So basically, in essence, he was like a first-year player for us. Tyrell Williams was a first-year player for us. Hunter Renfrow was a first-year player for us. I mean, they traded for Trevor Davis. He only lasted 9 games. They traded for Zay Jones. He played like 5 games or 6 games or something. There was no continuity. Like, you know, Jared Cook was gone. You know, they got rid of him. So there was no carryovers. Even our running backs were all new. Brand new fullback, you know, brand new right tackle, you know, brand new left guard. So, you know, there's a lot of moving pieces, man. And you look at the teams that win, they don't always bring their whole roster back, but they have continuity in place. And we don't have that. It's like a revolving door. That's why when I look at this draft, I'm not too upset about what they're doing. I see what Gruden is doing. He's getting his young guys and he's grooming them all at the same time. He's getting his type of players so that they can all learn under his system, you know, and they don't have to relearn new tricks or bad habits or unlearn bad habits or whatnot. But they're his guys. He's grooming them. And a lot of these guys are coming back. So you got Waller, Renfrow, and Tyrell Williams all coming back. This will be their second year in the offense. You know, and we have more depth on the offensive line as well, and more depth at running back. So, I mean, there's no more excuses for Gruden. Let's be honest. Like, he's supposedly the offensive guru. Well, you know, you get an excuse the first 2 years because you didn't have all your pieces, but now there is no excuse. You literally have everything that you need. So it's time for him to, you know, put in the work and make it happen. And I think they will. I think you're going to see a pleasant surprise this year.
Well, Rooz, 2 things. One, when he was talking about Montana, who he was throwing the ball to, I go back to our conversation a couple of days ago. That's why I started laughing, because I think it goes back to the article I wrote, came out last week, about who I think should be in the Hall of Fame and why. And I'm not minimizing what Jerry Rice did in the NFL, but my point was, and I will contend this point to the day I die, he had a bunch of talent around him. 2 Hall of Famers throwing him the ball, arguably one of the top 2 or 3 greatest head coaches with the best offensive mind ever to put him in a position to catch the ball and score. He had great complementary receivers around him, other number ones like Terrell Owens later in his career. He had outstanding running backs that could catch the ball at the backfield, a tight end that could do things. And so he still made plays, but he also had help. And I wonder if other receivers that may have played in that era that would have been in that system, how they would have fared. Put Tim Brown in there. I think his numbers would have been comparable to what Jerry Rice's was.
Jerry said that himself.
With the longevity that he played.
And
I think I would go the same thing with Sterling Sharp. I would go the same thing if you put Randy Moss or Michael Irvin in that offense. It's all the same thing. But I'm actually, the next article I'm writing for Franchise, and I'm actually starting it tomorrow, is actually about Carr and being a Christian and playing with that stigma that Christian athletes aren't fiery and are just, shucks, good golly guys. How that's a stigma that I think plays in what people like Chris said, oh, well, I want to see him play with more fire. Well, there's a lot of quarterbacks that are kind of cool under pressure, and they may not show it on TV, but he barked back at Gruden a few times last year. So he has it in him. He likes to be coached hard because great ones do. But at the end of the day, just because he's so religious or he is very vocal about his religion doesn't mean that he's not fiery. And I think some people misconstrue that, albeit because it's low-hanging fruit, or they may not be a fan of his religion, or whatever the case may be. You want people may want to pick and choose why they don't like Carr. But that's something that I'm writing about in the next WWJD, because I don't think, quite honestly, that it's fair to him or any other athlete that's religious, albeit if it's Christianity, Muslim, Buddhism, or atheist. I could care less, wherever you practice. Just, you're out there playing football. It's ball. At the end of the day, what someone prefers or who they prefer to.
That's my only thing, is you got to win. If you're winning, those things aren't brought up, and we just haven't won. It was some crazy stat that was out not too long ago. the longest tenured quarterback to, come back after as many losing seasons as he's had. It's only Derek Carr and David Carr, his brother. It's some crazy stat of like longest tenured quarterbacks with like this crazy losing record. And, again, it's not fair because it's not all his fault. But at the end of the day, you look at the best quarterbacks around the league, they tend to win.
Well, you also and
Go ahead, Rooz.
back to the stat that Chris was talking about. Also, if you look at the record as a starting quarterback against, I think it's 500 or playoff teams.
Yeah,
It's Carr. David Carr number 1.
yeah.
Worst. Derek number 2, and also I think Marcus Mariota's like
Yeah.
So we went for the hat trick.
It's not a flattering statistic.
No,
When it
but
comes to David and Derek, it came from the same
But-
have been just uttered. I mean, I hate to say it, but they've just been hot garbage, man. Like horrible. We've had historically bad defenses.
Yeah.
So
Well, if you look at David's journey along with Derek's, the Texans were what do you call that?
Expansion
Expansion team
Expansion.
that year when they brought him in. When Derek came into the Raiders, Reggie just got done depleting the whole thing. Al just gone. It was pretty much as close as you're going to get to an expansion team, but it had a lot of history. And I think that was even a bigger fight for Derek because they really they dismantled the front office, the scouting departments. They were building that whole thing. They were building.
they
At
had
the end of
$15
the day,
million in dead cap space that first year. How do you expect to build a team? And the cap was only like 90-something million, I believe.
yeah. At the end of the day, I know the win-loss statistic isn't quarterback. It's not a win-loss statistic, but typically the best quarterbacks in the league don't lose, And you look at like a Russell Wilson who got brought into the Seahawks. He didn't get brought into some great situation, but as soon as he became the quarterback, it became a great situation, So those are things that, it takes, a developing and drafting a team, but a guy like Russell Wilson came in and made that team win.
But how good would Russell Wilson be without that Legion of Boom? Without
because they drafted well, but all those guys came in the same draft.
But they had a previous draft before that, which was a home run.
But you're also, yeah, and you also got to look at this too. Like when Reggie took over, and you guys talked about what he came into, he also had to modernize the scouting department. They didn't have computers. They didn't have certain things other NFL teams did. You're talking about what Pete did in Seattle. Pete is the king of modern everything. If it's something new, Pete and John are definitely going to try it. And that's what they've done. They want the whole hawk tackling is rugby style tackling. That's what all NFL teams are doing now. He did it at USC and he implemented that in Seattle. Now all NFL teams, including all the way down to youth football, are doing that same type of tackling because it's safer. And anybody can make statistics up about anything. And here's my point. I was in a conversation today with one of our who
You're muted, Joe.
I'm sorry, someone called. My bad. But I was in a conversation with one of the guys that covers basketball for us today, and he brought up something to me. He's like, "Hey, did you see the statistic about James Harden and what his points per game is in cities that the strip clubs because he's got propensity to go to strip clubs. He's got to, in certain cities, his points per game in his play is lower than it actually is in other cities. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. That's all good. That's well and good. But here's the thing. He plays in Houston. Houston has one of the biggest strip club scenes there is. You know what I'm saying? Oh, I can hear you guys. I don't know if you can hear me. I can hear you. Yeah. But anyway, so I say you can make a stat about anything, and it doesn't really matter. Like winning football games falls on the quarterback as much as anybody else. This way, starting pitchers, when they start games, they get wins and losses. It's the starting pitchers. That comes along with everything. And And to not equate what a quarterback does winning, saying that that's not really a quarterback stat, I disagree with that, because you got quarterbacks like Matt Stafford who are very good quarterbacks. They're just not winning because of their organization. There's organizational failure. How many quarterbacks leave bad organizations and turn around? Look at Carson Palmer. He left Cincinnati and he becomes, look what he did in Arizona. Look, he even had a pretty decent year with the Raiders, a couple years with the Raiders. You look at what guys do when they leave those bad organizations and see how they take off. It's something different. Kurt Warner left the Giants, goes down to Arizona. He leads them to a Super Bowl. So, I mean, he played like dog crap in Arizona. So, or New York. So, with that being said, guys, I can't hear you guys. So, I'm gonna get out of here. I'll see you guys next week. Appreciate you. Love you guys, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
Later.
All right, man. Thanks, Joe. Conversation got real serious there. Why do I feel like I'm defending Carr and Richard lately these days, more than I would like to. But fun conversations nevertheless.
The season hasn't even started yet.
No, right, man. We got a long ways to go, and I feel like I'm already in defense mode, dude. It's crazy. But I do like having the debates like that. I think it makes for good TV, if that's what you want to call this, what have you.
Nobody else is talking about it, so why not us?
Why not? So as we get ready to wrap this up, Chris, any final thoughts? Defense, offense?
Let's see. I would say, yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm looking for them to maybe sign a veteran corner. I don't know if there's a rush to do it right now, but I think at some point they could add a veteran corner to bring into that room. Not necessarily start, but maybe bring in some sort of competition, maybe somebody with a little bit more proven track record right now while you let those young guys develop. So that's kind of what I'm kind of looking to see if that happens.
Rooz, first of all, Rooz, man, thank you for being here tonight. We knew you'd be a fit. You proved it. Great knowledge, great everything, dude. You got the presence. I can't wait to do more shows with you. First of all, how do you feel about your first show? Second of all, what's your final thoughts on the defense?
First show, I mean, no hiccups so far. I mean, my first time doing this, I had to pull out an old Apple MacBook just so I could the webcam, because I use powerful desktop. I don't really use laptops, but so far, knock on wood, everything went smooth. So
I got a powerful laptop, just saying.
Yeah, well, that's why you're the Dark Knight. Trying to catch up to you.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, so just to another quick announcement. So there's a lot of stuff that we got coming down the pipeline. I've been working kind of in the background with Joe a lot. I've been in close communication with him. We're really trying to bring you guys like a lot of like exclusive and really cool stuff that we're working on. I mean, the COVID thing has really, really impacted everything, but we don't make excuses. We're just going to keep pushing and keep moving forward. But there's a lot of cool stuff that we're working on. And if you guys have any ideas, feel free to email or get in contact with one of us, preferably Joe, because he's the kind of engine that makes everything go. But there's a lot of cool stuff, a lot of exclusive stuff that you're not going to get anywhere else. So, and I'm really excited to be a part of this. And, it's just the beginning of something that could potentially be huge. So we're really excited. But as far as the team goes, like I keep going back to that. I mean, look at 2018, look at the end of the roster. Just when we get off the air here, I would encourage everyone just to take a quick look. Just look at that roster in 2018 to look where it is now. It's a drastic improvement. I mean, it's night and day. It's not even close. So the talent is there. Gruden's got his guys. We got to stay healthy. That's going to be important. And also another thing that you should keep an eye on is how quickly are these guys going to acclimate to the new scheme, to a new team, the draft picks coming in, because, travel is still limited. Guys can't travel. They can't practice together. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see. So, and speaking of that, one thing that you could keep an eye on with Arnett being kind of an older guy, he's kind of 24 years old, with playing a lot of football. He's got a lot of experience. You could potentially look for him to make an impact quicker than some of the other guys because he's actually played a lot of big boy football. So I know guys like Ruggs and some of the guys from these bigger programs that are just pumping out talent. Those guys don't really play a lot of games. I mean, you look at Josh Jacobs, his whole college career, he had less than, I think, 250 touches total his entire 3 years there, rushing and receiving. So, and that's a good thing because he's fresh. You want your running backs to have a low mileage count. But, I'm just excited, man. It's when I peel back the layers, I see what the vision is. I see what they're doing and the types of players they're adding. So, I'm just excited, man. This is we're making the best out of a situation that everyone's going through right now. So, trying to give everybody as much cool, exclusive content as possible. So.
Well, awesome, man. I'm, again, just so glad that you're a part of this. Raider Nation, it's been another fun time hanging out with the boys, talking Raider football. Tonight, we broke down the defense a little bit. We went almost player by player, basically. Definitely positions and categories. We pulled that onion back, like Rooz was just saying. Not only is there some really good potential talent here, there's a lot of depth on this defense. There's the added benefit of having, I think, going to be one of the biggest opportunities we have this year is having one hell of a special teams. As we broke it down, I mean, even when we jumped over to the offensive side of the ball, I mean, we're going to have a lot of added depth to our special teams, a lot of playmakers, a lot of speed, guys that like to tackle and hit and tackle right. So I'm really excited for what the future holds for the Raiders. It's a turning point. It's an inaugural year in quarantine. I get it. It's feeling a little different. Excited, but nevertheless, I can't wait for the season just to start and we put all this stuff behind us because I think it's going to be really exciting. For Rooz, for Chris, I'm Knight for Franchise Sports Media. This is the Franchise Raider Podcast. And until next week, stay Raider strong.
Later.